Okay, we should be going live like nowish. So yeah, probably already live. So welcome everyone. This is On Just Restart. This is the On Just Restart podcast we do pretty much every Sunday night at 9 p.m. Eastern Time. Now, this guy over here, this is Brandon from WhataboutNintendo. He is my partner in crime. His channel is also linked in the description below. How you doing, buddy?
I'm doing well. Yeah. Enough. You know.
Well enough.
Life.
Yep.
As well as you can this year.
Except, I understand that. Life is a thing, for sure. And on the note of life, when I first advertised the podcast the other day, I was saying that Rob would join us. That was the initial plan. Rob from Rule of Two Review will actually be joining us next week. We had to adjust things a little bit. So he will be on next week. Stay tuned, he'll be there. But today we're going to be talking about that Nintendo Direct Mini Partner Showcase. They had a slew of things such as Control coming to the Switch, Hitman 3 coming to the Switch. What's fascinating about that is that those are cloud games on the Switch. Mm-hmm. So we're going to be talking about that and cloud gaming coming to Switch. We're going to be talking a little bit about Bravely Default 2. Finally, we got to see the game. Finally, we know when it's coming out. As well as No More Heroes 3. Well, we got to see footage of it is what I'm trying to say for that one. We got gameplay and No More Heroes 1 and 2. And on top of all of that, we got more footage for Hyrule Warriors Age of Calamity and a demo to play. And we played it. Did you play it, Brandon?
Yeah, I did.
Okay.
I did.
Okay. And we played it. And it was great. It was great. So we're going to be talking about that. But also on top of that, we're going to be talking about this situation regarding Retro Studios and this continual expansion we're seeing. Different hires. They're expanding their headquarters. There's some special things that seem to be going on over there, and we're going to be talking about that as well. So all these different things, I think, all together amount to some pretty exciting stuff. So that's what we're talking about right now. Before we do that, though, I just want to say... All right, that's it. No, I don't know why I felt like I had an extra note, but I don't. We're pretty much ready to jump into it. I guess... Actually, no, I do have an extra note. Happy Halloween for those who celebrate it. I was away for the weekend. It was also my birthday weekend at the same time, so I'm a year older now. That's also why I'm wearing this My Hero hoodie, because I didn't want to go full in on wearing a costume, but I had to wear a costume. So I was like, you know what? Let me look for something that doesn't require a lot of effort, but also looks really cool, and I might wear outside of Halloween. So I was like, you know what? A UA track outfit would probably work. So I found this sick My Hero Academia hoodie, and I'm wearing it again because I think it looks awesome. And yeah, that's pretty much my other random note that I just felt like bringing up. But
yeah, it's good because if you know what it is, you get the reference, but it's not like in your face. Like you could just wear it if you wanted to.
Yeah, that was the plan, and I am very pleased. It's on Amazon. I probably should do like an Amazon Market store thing, but whatever. It's on Amazon, so you probably could find it there. But let's check in with the chat, and then we'll actually jump into everything that I said we would be talking about. So let's see here. Hello there, DE Fox. Hello there, Freddy68. Byron, hello. You are early. Hi there. Chad, hello there. Where's Rob? Well, like I said earlier, just in case anyone missed it, Rob will be with us next week. We had some scheduling, but he'll be here next week, and we'll be talking about even more No More Heroes, Metroid, and whatever obviously happens throughout the week to impact that discussion. Ronnie Fazio, hello there. Paul, what's good? I'm doing well, by the way. Armchair Analysis, hello there. Benjamin W, hello. Cycly, how you doing, buddy? That is right, Armchair Analysis. We finally got No More Heroes 3 footage and 1 and 2 all on the... Well, No More Heroes 3 is not on the eShop yet, but 1 and 2 are on the eShop. 60 frames per second, unexpected. It looks pretty darn nice. Paul, you're also my hero fan. Isn't it such a great anime? Birdman, hello there. So, Brandon, is there anything you wanna touch on before we jump into the swing of things?
No, I think we're good.
Okay, cool. A couple things. One, guys, if there's any issues with the audio or anything like that, let me know. Actually, let me just double check because I want to make sure that you're audible, Brandon. Because I might have messed with it early. Nope, we're good.
Can you hear me?
Perfectly and beautifully, as you always sound.
My beautiful voice.
Yep. Gotta love it. So everything seems to be fine, but guys, just let me know if there's any issues. And besides that, yeah, let's get this started. Although there was actually one more thing. So a couple people were asking about some Smash speculation. If something came up that I missed, by all means, present it in the chat, and we will talk about it. So just at me or Brandon, and we will definitely, for sure, address the question. So just pointing that out there. Now, I guess where should we get started? Do you want to talk Metroid first? Do you want to lead off with Metroid, and then we flow into the partner direct, or should we do it the opposite way?
I think you'll have to fill me in on what happened with Metroid. I haven't heard anything about Metroid, so you'll have to fill me in on that. So I guess to start with that.
So, let me pull up an article here real quick. Should have pulled it up earlier. I'm sorry. Forgive me. I actually drove like 4 hours to get home, and then I had dinner, and then I was like, oh, I gotta get this ready.
I was home all...
So I'm just gonna pull up this article for you guys. Now, the basic gist, and I'll show you this article in a moment, is just that Retro Studios has been continually hiring AAA developers who have been working on other AAA games, a lot of first-person shooting games. A lot of that's still happening. We're seeing more and more hires throughout. Every week or two, we're getting more news about that. But on top of that, according to Video Games Chronicle, Retro Studios will be investing over $500,000 in in a headquarter expansion. There was some, they're basically remodeling their current building. There was some confusion because earlier, I'll just show you guys the article here. But there was some confusion earlier in the week because at first the reports were suggesting that they were going to be moving to a new building in Denver. No, they are sticking with the same building, but they're remodeling it, expanding upon it. It's going to be bigger. They're investing $530,000. They're going to be building out an additional 40,000 square footage to the space.
It's crazy because they haven't done anything recently. It's crazy for a company that hasn't put out a game, and so in that amount of time that they're putting, $500,000 into expanding their headquarters. Right, and I want to touch on that, but I'm just gonna go over this part right here. Here they say the studio has since hired there's a number of hire actually. Yeah, I'll just read this part here. The studio has since hired a roster of AAA talent, including a GTA producer, Call of Duty veteran, Halo character designer, Warhawk director, and DICE artist, and they're still advertising for more jobs. So there's just, like I said, there's a whole bunch of hires that are happening from big AAA developers, a lot of which are for first-person shooting kind of franchises. Yeah, it's screams huge. Metroid involvement.
Yes, it's pretty apparent what they're working on. I mean, obviously, it's confirmed information they're working on Metroid Prime 4. But what is fascinating to me, as you noted, Brandon, is that they are expanding, but we have not seen a game published by Nintendo and Retro Studios for years. The last time we got a full-scale game from them was Donkey Kong Tropical Freeze on the Wii U, and I want to say back in 2014. This is the end
I think it was.
of 2020, so I want to say Tropical Freeze didn't even come out at the end of 2014. I think it was like early 2014. I could be wrong on that. I'll double check. But we're talking about at least 6 years, probably more than 6 years, since they've actually put a brand new game out in the market. That's insane. And now they are responsible for what I think is one of the...
February 14th, 2014.
Thank you for double checking that, Brandon. So it's been over 6.5 years. We are closer to 7 years since they've released a full-scale game out on the market. They've done some little things here and there, but pretty much they've done nothing since then.
Yeah.
And that's strange. For those who don't know what Retro Studios has done, they developed Metroid Prime 1, 2, and 3, and Prime Trilogy, the compilation, as well as Donkey Kong Country Returns and Donkey Kong Country Tropical Freeze. All of those games are very, very highly critically acclaimed games. Like, we're talking about some of the highest reviewed games of all time. Their pedigree is just the top of the
They've
top.
never made a bad game.
Right.
They've never even just made a good game. They've only made great games.
Great might even still be underselling their worst game. Their worst game is still better than great.
Which one do you think their really worst game is? Which one would you say is their worst game?
Oh, that's tough.
Returns?
I can't say any of them are bad.
No.
No.
That's the thing.
I want to say that people think that Tropical Freeze is better than Returns. So the sequel to Returns, people think is a little bit better. But does that mean Returns is worse than any of the Metroid Prime games? And
right,
that's tough. They're very, very different. You know, you have one that's a platformer, while another is a first-person adventure. Some people like Prime 2 the most, but other people would argue Prime 2 is the worst, and then Prime 3 is a bit more linear than the other two, but it flows better. It's tough, like, because it kind of comes down to preference. I think the best game is absolutely Metroid Prime. Their first game that they brought out, Metroid Prime, is one of the highest rated games of all time. When I say one of, I don't mean like the top 100 or even top 50. I mean like top 5. Just look it up on Metacritic. It is that high. Now, I mean, of course, Metacritic's always updating and stuff, but this thing's a 98. Okay, it's like near perfection, and that doesn't happen. Right. It's very, very, very good. So, point is, Retro Studios has made quality games, but the problem is that even though they've brought out 5 bangers, we're talking when Metroid Prime released, that was back in 2002. So between 2002 and 2020, that's 18 years? Yes, my math is correct. 18 years. And obviously they started developing Metroid Prime a couple years before that. So over the course of 20 or so years, they've only brought out 5 games. That is not a lot.
Ooh.
And to put that into perspective, Nintendo lost Rare around the same time they acquired Retro Studios. And it has not been an equivalent exchange. So,
not even close.
Like, Rare, if you look at the 90s, even in the early 2000s, they had a few good games before it all ended. Rare outputted so many games. Like, let's just talk about N64, because that's, like, what I remember the most. And I'm not going to list every game, but just, like, to give you an idea, they're responsible for Banjo-Kazooie, Banjo-Tooie, Perfect Dark, Killer Instinct. They were GoldenEye. That's 5 right there. Jet Force Gemini. Diddy Kong Racing. There's more, but you get my point.
Many.
That's like 7 really good games that people absolutely adored on the N64, like classics for the N64 era. Oh, Conker's Bad Fur Day is another one that comes to mind. I'm sure there's a few more that I haven't brought up, but the point is they've made some really, really good games, and their output was significant. And I just brought up 8. That was just for the N64 era.
Those are all in the same system.
And there are others that I haven't brought up, just for the record. Like, so their output was far greater. Now, the quality of their games, you could definitely say, is overall, like, the average is definitely less than Retro Studios. But in terms of just output of, like, they still brought out really good games, and some of the games they've made are still considered to be incredible games. Like Banjo-Kazooie and GoldenEye are historic games. So it's not like Rare never put out historic games like Retro Studios has. They have. Maybe not at the same level, but still they did. And actually, GoldenEye, even though you would say hasn't aged very well, was still historic in terms of shaping how first-person shooters were done moving forward. Like, it was a huge accomplishment, a huge milestone in gaming when that game came out. So it's definitely a big deal. But the point I'm getting at here by comparing Rare with Retro is that Rare sort of went away from Nintendo, and a lot of Nintendo fans sort of thought, oh, Retro Studios is kind of the new Rare. No, not even close.
No.
It's not even close. See, when Nintendo had Rare, while I wouldn't say it made up for the lack of third-party support, it definitely mitigated the issue. Retro Studios is like not even a developer. They are owned by Nintendo. They are a developer, but going the Wii U generation, what they do for the Wii U generation, just Tropical Freeze, one game. During the Switch generation, we haven't gotten anything yet. We know they're working on Prime 4, but you understand my point here. I hope it's just that they haven't really done that much, and
they're over here putting out one game a generation. Like that's not good enough.
No, it's not. I don't think it is. But that's what's really exciting to me about this. It's that it's not just the fact that, yes, we're getting more information about Metroid Prime 4. All these hires, all this expansion suggests that they are building up a massive, epic, high-quality team to make some incredible, ambitious games. And I say games, like, yes, they're working on Prime 4, but what's more exciting about this, the point I'm trying to get at, is that it looks like Prime 4 could be the beginning of something very special. Or several things really special. I think Prime 4 could be like a jumpstart to the Metroid franchise, and we could start seeing a lot more Metroid games. Retro Studios could become the dedicated Metroid developer. Now, here's the thing. Let me be clear about this. Retro Studios was afraid to become the quote-unquote Metroid developer with the Prime trilogy, which is part of the reason why they moved on to Donkey Kong Country. They want to do other things. But by expanding, that gives them more opportunity to make more than one game at a time. Look at something like Monolith Soft, for example. They're working on several projects at a time. They are a Nintendo-owned studio, but they actually have multiple studios. They have exactly, Brandon. They have multiple projects in the works at a time. Retro Studios has only come out with 5 games, period. So with this expansion, and hopefully with the success of Metroid Prime 4, that could mean more Metroid games being constantly in development, kind of like how the Mario team and the Zelda team are constantly developing a Mario and Zelda game. Those games are always in development. So I would love it if Retro Studios became like the Western EAD or what have you, or EPD, that's constantly developing Metroid. But at the same time, they grow, so they're going to be working on other things as well. Maybe we see more Donkey Kong Country games from them. Maybe they work on other Nintendo IP that are very Western-centric, but we don't see them that much. So, for example, Star Fox. We love Star Fox. Us Nintendo fans, especially in the West, love Star Fox.
Oh, yeah.
But Star Fox is another one of those Nintendo franchises that's underutilized, underappreciated, just kind of like Metroid. And if Retro Studios were to expand in the way where it seems that they are doing, we could see other Nintendo franchises be worked on by Retro Studios at the same time as Metroid. So to me, this is really exciting. Obviously, we don't know exactly what they're going to be working on, but they are definitely growing and expanding, and seeing that is I think really cool. We might finally see Retro Studios become more than just a one game per generation developer.
Yeah. And it'd be nice to finally have like consistent Metroid stuff, because before it was like you didn't really, you know, with Mario and Zelda, you expect at least one major release every single console, you know, every single generation. Like we should expect that with Metroid Prime, you know, we should expect, you know, the Switch gets its Metroid Prime, and then the Switch 2 would get, you know, another Metroid Prime game, its own. You know, kind of like how we expect that for Zelda and Mario. So yeah, I think that would be really nice, not having just be like, well, I guess, you know, we get Metroid Prime 4 and be like, well, will we ever see another Metroid game? I don't know. Like, no, that shouldn't be how it is. It should be like we expect, like when a Zelda game comes out, we expect that they immediately start development of the next Zelda game.
Yes. Yeah, exactly. It's just constant development. And Brandon, I think we've definitely touched on it before, but I just kind of want to ask you your perspective on it now. When Metroid Prime 4 finally gets like its real reveal, when we learn about the actual game and get the actual title and such, do you think they're going to keep the 4? Or do you think they may, but what I would actually prefer is that they reveal it as Metroid Prime 4, but I don't want the actual titling to have the 4 in it.
Okay. Oh yeah, okay, I get what you mean. Yeah, I think they did that for the other two, didn't they? Like It's just the name and the logo. I don't remember.
That's a good
I
question.
assume they'll just do what they've always done.
No, it's in it. Let me show you guys on the Google. See, Metroid Prime. You guys can't see it well from here, but
Metroid Prime Logogs. I accidentally spelled.
like you look at Metroid Prime.
Yeah.
It has the 3 in there, right?
Yeah, I see.
It has it in.
Yeah,
there.
I assume they'll do the exact same pattern. Since they've looked so similar, I'm sure it will look like even the Metroid Prime 4 like temp logo looks be in the same sort of pattern. So
I mean, I guess they could keep the number. I just feel like they shouldn't. So the reason I say that is because I don't think they should. If by numbering it, like the number is going to continue to go up, and whenever someone sees a particular number, if they haven't played the ones beforehand, if they don't, let's assume they don't know anything about the franchise, assume they've never done any research or anything like that. You see, for example, a movie. Let's talk about movies for example. Like, I don't know, Dead or Alive. That's the game, but anything, just any sort of movie that let's just say it says 5 on it. If I haven't seen the first 4, and I know nothing about this series, but I'm interested in it, without having done any research, I'm like, oh well, I probably should watch the other ones first. You know?
Yeah.
And I think they don't need to do that with Metroid. I think what needs to happen is that Metroid Prime needs to become like Legend of Zelda, like Super Mario. You see Super Mario, you see the subtitle, Super Mario Odyssey, Super Mario Galaxy. Doesn't matter if you've played any other Mario game beforehand. This one stands on its own. The titling suggests that. And really what the title tells you is the type of gameplay it is, or what kind of game it is. So when you see Legend of Zelda, you're like, okay, that's the big, awesome fantasy medieval adventure game. So, and we always know that, right? We always know it's that. I think for Metroid, and obviously there's a 2D Metroid. 2D Metroids are just called Metroid. You have New Super Mario Brothers and you have Super Mario. Those sort of distinguish between 2D Mario and 3D Mario usually. I think for Metroid Prime, this should be Metroid Prime and just where the subtitle is. I would prefer they go in that direction.
Yeah. I would... It'd be kind of annoying if it's like Final Fantasy, we're on Metroid 16, we're like Metroid Prime 16.
Yeah,
Please,
like the number is
stop.
only going to continue to go up. If we want, if we really want to see that first-person Metroid return consistently, I think the Prime naming tells you, okay, this is what the kind of Metroid it is. Metroid Prime is first-person adventure Metroid. Final Fantasy, I mean, they've been doing it for years, but I'll just be straight up. It's confusing to me. Like, if you've never played Final Fantasy and you don't know that each one stands on its own, it can get kind of messy. And then there are some Final Fantasies like 13A or 2 or something like.
Yeah, 13 Part 1, 13 Part 2. I think.
Yeah.
I don't know. I've only ever played 15. So.
My point is that Metroid Prime 4 is going to be like a reboot for the Metroid franchise. And I think I don't think they need the 4 in the naming. I think they need to move away from that. And I just want Metroid Prime to be like, yep, this is going to be at least one big first-person adventure Metroid per generation. We have our Metroid developer now. It's Retro Studios. They can make other things as well because they've expanded, but this is what they do.
I think the only difference that I could see why there would be a number is just that Metroid follows like a story, in the sense that like 1 happens or like 2 happens very, very shortly after 1, like it's a direct continuation. Like Zelda, where it's like sort of a continuation. Like Mario, it's like, yeah, there's sort of a story, but not like really. Like Metroid, like it's a direct story throughout the whole thing, which is why the numbers kind of make more sense. But I understand what you mean. Like eventually you're gonna get like it kind of gets ridiculous after a trilogy when you start numbering it. You're on like 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Like it's a bit too much. You might as well just switch back.
Like Halo Infinite is technically Halo 6, right?
Yeah.
Do they call it Halo 6 though? Is that part of the branding at all, or is it just Halo Infinite?
Not at all.
And I think that's the right way to go about it, because after a certain point, I feel like it just
well, after
it seems a little ridiculous.
Halo, yeah, because they had Halo 3 was it was 1, 2, 3, 4. Obviously, there were other games, but in terms of the numbered ones, and then 5 was still called 5. I think it had a subtitle.
And it's not to say that the game still wouldn't be like
it doesn't
the
have 6
number.
in it at all. It's just Infinite.
Yeah, but what I'm trying to get is it doesn't mean that there wouldn't still be a story. Like Halo Infinite's still a continuation of the Halo story. It's not like a separate thing.
Yeah.
That's still there, but it's just kind of like, for example, Super Metroid is Metroid 3. If you care to look into the lore, there it is. There's your answer. But it's called Super Metroid. It's not called Metroid 3 because that just you know what I mean? Like they do it for the 2D Metroid games. They don't actually number them, even though there is still an order for them. You can still figure that out. I just hope they do that for Metroid Prime, just because I want them to make it a consistent, ongoing franchise for years to come. Yep.
Yeah. The other thing about Zelda and Mario is that when they release a game, it's not necessarily the next game in the timeline. Like Breath of the Wild,
they just jump all over the place.
Yeah. So like you might play one game and then they might release another game that's like a completely different timeline, or like before it or after it, or you don't even know.
That's an interesting
Whereas
point.
Metroid, it's gonna be the next one. So the number makes sense.
So that kind of limits them story-wise as well, right? Which could also limit them design-wise.
Right. And they can choose to change that at any time, though. It's like, it doesn't have to be that.
Like, well, the thing is, if they go away from the number, they can make a Metroid Prime that's outside of the Metroid Prime timeline, because the Metroid Prime series doesn't actually... It's telling us things that went on in the middle of the Metroid timeline. It's not at the end. It's not like in the beginning. Well, somewhat, but you get my point. Like, if they go away from the number, like to what you're saying, Brenda, they can make it wherever they want in the timeline. They can go far deeper into the timeline than we've ever seen before. So that's something I would appreciate. At the same time, if they want to kind of like break away from the timeline, if they want to do like a, just kind of like a different continuity, they would have that option as well. Which I wouldn't necessarily mind either. I think some people might mind if they were to have a Metroid game that didn't fit within the timeline. I think all of them do, the mainline ones. So, but I'm just saying that I don't think they need to limit themselves to that necessarily. Even though I do appreciate them telling the story, because I do want to learn more about it. But let's check in with the chat here, unless there's anything else you want to kind of add to that, Brandon.
No, I think we summed that up pretty well.
Okay. Birdman, I can't wait for Season 5 of My Hero Academia. Yeah, I'm definitely looking forward to that. D.E. Fox Academy, I like your new host rat. Thank you. Taker610. Never played any Metroid Prime games, only played Super Metroid. I'd probably jump right in with 4. And that's just kind of a perfect example. You pay attention to games, so you understand you can jump into Prime 4, but getting rid of the numbering, it makes it easier for people. At the same time, I do think when they introduce Metroid Prime 4, they should call it Metroid Prime 4 so people know this is the Metroid Prime game we've been waiting for. But I just personally think they don't need to keep the numbering forever. Cycling, you can't have Retro Studios and bad in the same sentence. Yeah.
No, you cannot.
What were you saying, Brandon? I cut you off.
I said I didn't even think about it from that angle. Like if you call it something else, and then people like don't realize it's Metroid Prime 4.
Yeah, so that is another thing, right? Because we've been talking about Prime 4 this whole time. Like Prime 4 is gonna have. There's definitely a lot of excitement and interest in that name. So they at least want to introduce it as that. But I point is I still feel like long term it would make sense to move away from it, but that's just my take. Armchair analysis. There was a statement by the head director of Fortnite that might be hinting at some sort of Fortnite content in Smash. Well, I haven't seen the statement, so if one of you guys want to tell me where it is, I could take a look at it. But just off the top of my head from that, did you see it?
I have not, but that sounds horrible.
Considering that we got Steve, I'd say it's possible, but I also think like
Steve is Steve, but like no, it's not the same. Steve in Fortnite's another. It's way worse.
Huh.
Like,
Yeah.
I'm not upset about Minecraft Steve, especially since we got Banjo, as I think the stage is actually really cool. I'm interested to fight against him to see if he's as annoying as he looks. But so that was my always thing about Minecraft Steve, was either he was going to be the most bland character ever, or he's going to be way too insane because they have to pull his moveset from somewhere, but like not make it actually work within Smash as well. So I'm curious. But no, Fortnite character would be like a million times worse than Minecraft Steve for me. I'd be like, no, what? This is just jokes. This is just memes.
Yeah, I'm trying to find it. Okay, I don't...
Do any of you guys
I
in
don't
the
know.
chat have a link to it?
So, I mean, if there's a Fortnite character, that's crazy. I'll say that Fortnite content could potentially come to Smash Brothers. I don't think that's crazy. But keep in mind that we're seeing all sorts of franchises get involved with Smash Brothers, and it doesn't mean it's a specific character. It could be a Mii costume. It could be spirits. It could be music, or well, not Fortnite. You get my point, though, is that there's a lot of other ways characters can be involved, or franchises can be involved in Smash Bros. Without them having to actually be playable characters. That said, though, Fortnite is huge. It is huge. So a crossover of Smash Bros. And Fortnite, like just in terms of like purely from a marketing perspective, that will definitely go the rounds the same way as Minecraft. So I get it. I don't want that. I think considering that we just got Minecraft Steve, I don't see that happening. I don't see a Fortnite character happening. But I also didn't think a Minecraft character would happen either. So, you know, I can't say a hard no on it, but I'll also say that until I see it, I'm not going to believe it. So, we'll see what happens. Moving on here, though. I see I got a super chat from Taker610. Thank you very much. Metroid New Horizons, get that Animal Crossing tie. Hey, Metroid New Horizons, you know, it's a good name. It's a good name. Animal Crossing New Horizons already took the name, though, so I don't know if they'll do it again, but it's definitely a good name. Let me see here. Computer Robots added me. Can you talk about the Smash? I think we sort of talked a little bit about it. I couldn't find a specific quote, but yeah, it's possible that there could be something related, but it doesn't have to be a character. Computer Robots, can you and Brian also talk about when you predict when Fire Pack 8 is going to come? I think we could potentially see a reveal or like a teaser for it at the Game Awards at the very earliest, but I don't expect the actual character to come out at the earliest late January, but probably sometime February or March, actually.
I could see them waiting to announce it to like a January Direct or something.
Yeah.
Some kind of like early, or like that'd be like late winter, I guess. Direct.
Yeah.
I was gonna say early spring. It's not. It's in the spring.
Yeah. But we just got Steve. And there's got to be some time now. If they do want to get every character out by holiday 2021, then they do have to pick up the pace a little bit. But there have been delays, and I don't think they're going to rush development just to meet that deadline. I think what we're really looking at here is that we might see the final character come out early 2022. Like I think there's a good chance that deadline could be expanded upon. Okay, I mean, if we just do the math, right? So we are at the end of 2020. Let's say the character. Let's just kind of say they come out early, and the character comes out this January, which I'm not sure is a good bet. Let's say the next character comes out in January. That still leaves 3 more characters, and I think there should it should really be a 4-month window between characters, not 3. If it is 3, there's no way they're gonna come out with a character in January to bring out another in April. That's just not happening. It's gonna be at least 4 months, I think, and which would still put us into early 2022. So yeah, I think early 22 kind of. That's when I'm expecting the last character to come out. You know, no disagreements there, Brandon?
No, I think it's pretty sound logic.
Okay. So, I think we're pretty much ready to move on to the partner direct stuff, unless there's anything else you want to add for Metroid.
No, I think we're good.
Well, you're wrong. So, you're not wrong, I'm just kidding. But I just, another thing I want to sort of throw out there for you. Do you think we can see a gameplay reveal for Prime 4 in 2021? Do you think because we're continually seeing so many hires for this game, right? Or for Retro Studios. We don't know if it's specifically for Metroid Prime 4. You gotta think they're working on something else before Prime 4. Maybe it was canceled or put on hold.
Right.
There could be other products involved with all these hires and such. But either way, though, they're definitely working on stuff. Are we going to see Prime 4 finally get a gameplay reveal in 2021?
I think it's a possibility. Because I think 2022 is a time they could release it. I'm just wondering, I think it depends on if Nintendo feels like they need to show it off, or if they'll just wait to the release year to show it off, because it depends on what's coming out 2022 or 2021. I mean, like if they got Zelda and maybe they got Prime Trilogy and stuff already, maybe they just do a little tease to show it off, because the 35th anniversary of the game. So yeah, actually, now that I think about it, I'm changing my opinion as I'm speaking. I'm putting up points to myself.
We figure
changing
stuff out
my own opinion
in the middle of the podcast.
Yeah. So yeah, I think they might want to tease it if they want to show off, like if they release Prime Trilogy HD as the 35th anniversary kind of celebration game. Maybe they'll want to do a tease for Prime 4 because it's directly related. And if they have that ready, they could show off a tease. I'm sure they'll have enough done by then to at least be able to do a short tease. I don't think they'll blow it out or officially announce it, as the name or anything like that. I don't think it'd be a very long tease. I'm not even sure if it will be as long as the Breath of the Wild sequel tease. I'm expecting that or less. I think it could just because it's the 35th anniversary, and I feel like they'll probably have time to do that, and it's a big enough game that I feel like Nintendo will want to show it off earlier than they typically do, like they did with the Breath of the Wild sequel. They show that off way earlier than they typically do for their games these days. So.
There's just a lot that it is a slightly different beast. It's a huge game. So games of that scope, I think maybe Nintendo will be willing to open that up a little bit in terms of that reveal to release window. When I say reveal, I mean I guess re-reveal in this case, but like a gameplay reveal is what I'm really getting at. But what I've been thinking, Brandon, is that maybe one of the reasons we haven't seen Metroid Prime Trilogy HD or 2D Metroid yet is because they are waiting to show off Metroid Prime 4 first. Because there's a history with Metroid, and showing something off and angering fans. So, for example, Nintendo knows there's a lot of excitement for Prime 4. So if they only show, say, 2D Metroid and don't talk about Prime Trilogy and don't talk about Prime 4, there's gonna be a little bit of outcry. There's gonna be some negative publicity. Maybe Nintendo wants to be really careful about the image and branding and how they market Prime 4 or just Metroid series as a whole. So when they finally decide to talk about Metroid, we're getting a blowout of Metroid. You know what I mean? It's not just gonna be a little thing. When they finally talk about Metroid, it's gonna be a blowout for Metroid, which I think strengthens our whole anniversary theory that for Metroid, even though it hasn't been big,
this time around, because of circumstances, because of the need for marketing, because of the timing of things, and all of that this time they will do something for it. I think it kind of makes sense. I mean, look at the Federation Force situation. They showed off Federation Force. It wasn't a bad game, but because of the situation, because of the demand for quote-unquote a real Metroid Prime game
apart.
Yeah, got torn apart. And then you look at how they treated Samus Returns. They still handled that wrong, in my opinion, simply in the sense that it was put on the 3DS. It should never have been on the 3DS.
The game was shipped out to die.
It would have been done so much better on Switch. And it would have worked out then, because at that time they had what they did, which was smart. They first announced the development for Metroid Prime 4. Fans were super excited. And then after that, once we knew that the big Metroid was coming, then you give us the little Metroid that we're like, okay, that's not the big Metroid we've been wanting, but this is still a cool thing we want as well. Yeah. So they did that right. I mean, man, how Samus Returns would have sold so well if it was on Switch. Like, if it came to Switch instead, it would have done so well. So that was kind of a missed opportunity.
I would have actually been able to buy it.
It would have been great. It would have been so good. Awesome. Yeah. But so I think Nintendo understands that, and it's not just Nintendo. You kind of see it with other games. For example, we're going to talk a little bit about this a little bit later, but No More Heroes 3, we finally got to see some real gameplay, like in an official trailer, but they also showed off 1 and 2 then. They didn't give us 1 and 2 first, and then wait months before they give us 3. They did it all at the same time. Right. So I think something like that will probably happen for Metroid. There's a reason you do that. So I'm kind of thinking that when we do finally see Prime 4, it's probably going to be announced alongside at least Prime Trilogy, maybe also 2D Metroid.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense.
We shall see, though. So let me take a couple more questions, and then we will move on to the Partner Direct. So, Taker610, are there first-party Nintendo cloud games in the Switch's future? That's a good question, and that's definitely going to be relevant to what we're going to be talking about later into the video. I'll say that I don't think Nintendo is going to run games off a PC. Like, whatever they have on Switch will be made for Switch, but there could be some online-only games where if they're online-only, might as well be a cloud version of it. Like they could theoretically do that. So there's that. Like, for example, when Tetris 99 first came out, it was an online-only game. So if they had just done a cloud version of it, it wouldn't have made any difference, really. Unless you just like being in the menu without being able to play. Now there's an offline mode, I'm pretty sure, for Tetris 99, so it's a little different. I think ultimately fans prefer to have, even if, like, there is a stigma with cloud, like.
Yeah. Well, yeah. I mean, even if it's an online-only game, especially if it's online, like usually those type of games I'm playing like competitively, so I definitely want those downloaded on my system because I don't want the extra input lag.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Because that's gonna make it really hard to play.
That makes sense as well. So I guess to answer your question, Taker610, I would say that no, I don't think so. I think these cloud games make a lot of sense for games that require a lot of effort to make work on Switch, and it's just at a point where it's not really worth the investment to scale things down to that extent. And it may not even be a high quality thing. So instead, what they do is like, hey, we can't really give you a high quality product by porting it and developing it for Switch. So instead, we're just gonna give you the cloud version, which is way less in resources, right? It costs way less to do, it's far easier to do, and you still have a version of that on the Switch. And I definitely want to talk a little bit more about cloud gaming, but I want to save that a little bit later into the discussion. You have anything to add to that, Brandon? Or you want to save your cloud stuff until we actually focus on the cloud stuff later?
Yeah, I'll save it until we focus on it.
Okay. Paul, did you see the TCL Switch Pro leak? TCL, is that referring to the screen, or is that something else? Because I know there's a screen technology with like mini LED or something. I'm not sure if that's
mini LED or micro LED or whatever it was.
Yeah. Mini LED or micro LED. Yeah, what's cool about the micro LED is that supposedly that's what they're going to be using for the Switch revision, and one, it has better color contrast. I think it has HDR capabilities, high dynamic range, and it's more power efficient. So it's basically a screen that has better colors and it's more power efficient. So in other words,
Nice.
this is the perfect kind of screen to get on the Switch to improve the battery life, but also make the image quality better. And that's really great. I think I even heard that it was like more affordable potentially, but I don't know if that's entirely true. But that could be something to look forward to on the Switch. And I'll say that if we're actually like considering a high dynamic range here, like I have to think that this would be a 1080p screen on the Switch, and it would be a little bit bigger too. Like I think
mean,
definitely
I would hope for one. Like on a yeah, if it was an upgraded Switch. I mean, they could keep it at 720p if they wanted to, but I feel like there's, already reason to put up a 1080p screen because you're already hitting that 720p for some games. So naturally, with a more powerful Switch, you'd be able to go above that. So
yeah,
it's like untapped potential if you don't.
Yeah. So I really feel I love the idea of the screen. You have better colors, lower power consumption, HDR, 1080p, a little bit bigger. That's exciting stuff. And if in docked mode, it can output 4K visuals to some extent, be it upscaling or DLSS 2.0 or some halfway point, like not true 4K, but maybe just above 1080p. That'd be awesome, dude. Like, it would be so sick.
Yeah.
Absolutely. So I think that, there's something to look forward to for when we do see the Switch revision, hopefully next year. But let's now move on to the partner showcase discussion. And once we get past that, if we want to talk a little bit more about the other things like Smash or the Switch Pro or what have you, we'll get into that with questions. But we talked about it. I think, Brandon, I think both you and I kind of agreed that there was a pretty good chance that there would be a partner showcase this week, but at the same time we were probably like, yeah, it's whatever, it's a partner showcase, not a big deal, right?
Yeah.
So like I
was like, there's no way there's gonna be another one that's good. It's the last one.
It was pretty good. Hunter. Yeah, it was pretty good. I think it was kind of the partner showcase we've been waiting for since the first partner showcase. Like, this partner showcase had what we thought we would get in the first one, before our expectations were shot way down.
That's exactly correct.
And I guess the fascinating thing though is that Nintendo straight up spoiled the good stuff about the partner showcase before we saw the partner showcase. They were like, hey guys, here's a partner showcase with Age of Calamity, Ready to Fall 2, and No More Heroes 3. So like, there were still surprises.
They didn't stream it like they did the Monster movie.
Right. But I guess the other thing is that because it's a partner showcase and not like an Nintendo Direct, it's already kind of, I think at this point we've come to the understanding that these showcases, while they've been getting kind of better, they still don't have that surprise factor, that big oomph. Like, we're not getting like in-house developed Nintendo games. However, what we speculated to be the case, like possible for the partner showcase, is that we could see games that Nintendo may be publishing, their IP may be involved with it, but it's being made by a third-party company. So Age of Calamity, Hyrule Warriors, yes, it is using the Zelda franchise, Zelda characters, Breath of the Wild. That is all true, and yes, the Zelda team has helped out with that project. Doesn't change the fact that Koei Tecmo is the primary developer for this game. In other words, this is a partner They are a partner right now. They're a developer, so they're showcasing a product of one of their partners. So Age of Calamity is a part of that. Ready to Fall 2, while Nintendo is publishing it, it's being developed by Square, so that is in there as well. No More Heroes 3, while closely associated with Nintendo, isn't actually really published by Nintendo. So that's another thing that was in a partner showcase. But all of these things are very close to Nintendo fans, so obviously it's really exciting for us. And I'm just glad we got to see Bravely Default 2 and No More Heroes 3. They were both shown off at the Game Awards last year. At the time, it was for 2020. And I think, considering that they're both coming out in 2021, I think that is very telling, actually, of how significant the delays were.
because Bravely Default 2 and No More Heroes 3 I would put under the classification as not really, really big games. Like, cool, fun games, great quality stuff, but not like huge, ambitious, giant AAA efforts that are subject to delays. Now, it's not to say that smaller projects aren't also subject to delays. I think they are, but I'm just saying, like, they were both supposed to come out in 2020, and both are not coming out in 2020. They're coming out in 2021. So it just kind of, it goes to show that, yeah, this whole pandemic situation definitely created a lot of delays. It definitely slowed down a lot of things. When you think about the amount of brand new original content to come out that's published by Nintendo on the Switch this year, it's really not that much. It's Animal Crossing New Horizons, which was delayed into this year. 51 Worldwide Classics, that's a board game compilation, but still brand new original game from Nintendo. Paper Mario the Origami King, and Hyrule Warriors Age of Calamity. And what's interesting is that Hyrule Age of Calamity is not even an in-house thing. That's being done by Koei Tecmo. So the only in-house projects are 3. There were 3 ground-up in-house Nintendo projects to come out for Switch this year. One of them is a board game compilation, which is, I'm not. It sounds like I'm devaluing the game. I'm just trying to state what it is. It's not as big of a deal as a Breath of the Wild or a Mario Odyssey or a Mario Kart or Smash Brothers. It's a few tiers below that. You know what I mean? And then Animal Crossing was delayed into this year, so every kind of game sort of has an asterisk, I guess, when you put it in that perspective. The only game that doesn't have that asterisk is Paper Mario the Origami King.
Yeah.
And I'm picking things apart here. It's not to say that the year didn't have good stuff, because we still got, for example, Xenoblade Chronicles Definitive Edition, which had the future connected content. We're getting Pikmin 3. We just got Pikmin 3 Deluxe that has some new content in there. And obviously we got 3D All-Stars, and there have been some good stuff. But you get my point, though. Nintendo's big teams this year they just didn't touch it. Their big teams that's next year. So it's gonna be very, very different, I think.
Yeah, next year's gonna be a big jump. I mean, you gotta expect. I mean, we already know of so many games that were supposed to come out this year that are coming out next year. We're getting the spring lineup for 2021 is looking good.
Yeah,
the quarter 1 lineup's looking pretty nice.
And that's actually an interesting thing you bring up, because Bravely Default 2 is coming out for February. But you know what else is coming out in February? 3D World Deluxe plus Bowser's Fury. So it's 2 Nintendo published games coming out in February. And Monster Hunter Rise, not being published by Nintendo, but Nintendo's definitely pushing it. This is a big deal. That's coming out in March to end the fiscal year. What's interesting about this whole situation is that Breath of the Wild 2, we all agree, or most of us agree, coming out next year. When is it coming out next year? The Zelda anniversary is this February, and I put out a video this weekend talking about how Nintendo does care about their anniversaries, and the ultimate argument I was trying to make was that in this day and age, it's a little different. If you go to the past, for example, I think one example, I brought up this example in the video, Skyward Sword. The Legend of Zelda Skyward Sword was used to celebrate the 25th anniversary for Zelda.
Yep.
But it came out in November 2011.
Right.
The anniversary was in February. So my point with that is that typically with Nintendo, historically speaking, they don't celebrate the anniversary of a particular game the month it actually happens, at least in the past. But you look at what's going on now, it's a little different. 3D All-Stars, as I had predicted, I know I'm showboating a little bit, but I did predict it months in advance that 3D All-Stars would come out the anniversary month, September, for Mario. That happened.
The interesting thing about that is there's some speculation and some evidence that they were actually planning to release the game earlier in the year.
Right.
But then they delayed it to help fill out the holiday.
Yeah.
So it's even Nintendo originally hadn't even planned on putting it in that month.
But they did.
But they did.
So, and I think that's an important thing to note, that they're not gonna for sure do something on the anniversary but if it makes sense, then they will. Like, if they're in a situation where their development sort of matches up with it, yeah, they're going to kind of position it, because it is marketing. And that's I think the biggest point that I was trying to make with the video is that in this day and age, because of social media and because there's a lot more games coming out throughout the year, so Nintendo has to fill up the gear. They can't just it's not like back on the Wii U era, the Wii era, sometimes only like 3 games, so they have to space it out for the big time. So they had no choice but to skip anniversaries back in the day. Now, because of the way things are spaced out with all the different games they have, and because of social media, when you bring out a game, people talk about it, and if there's an anniversary there, that creates more conversation, thus more marketing. So for Mario's 35th anniversary, that creates a lot more conversation. Having the game come out in the anniversary time when they're celebrating all of it and talking about it, it makes a lot of sense. So there's that. I guess, but the point I'm getting at though is that there's something that could happen for Zelda's anniversary this February. But with 3D World Deluxe already coming out in February and Bravely Default 2 already coming out in February, 2 games that are being published by Nintendo.
I'm not expecting a Zelda thing to come out in February, or at least not the. Like, maybe they'll do something then, but I don't think Skyward Sword or Breath of the Wild will come out in February.
Well, the thing is, I don't disagree with you actually, but what I've been sort of speculating is that if this Switch revision is actually an early 2021 title, then to end the fiscal year, come out with a revision for the same, for the 4-year anniversary of Switch, have another console come out. Monster Hunter Rise, which has been traditionally paired with new system bundles or things of that nature in the past, that's coming out to close out the fiscal year. And also, we've seen Zelda games come out to pair up with systems as well. The most recent example is Link's Awakening Remake. Maybe they have like a Zelda Collection or Skyward Sword HD. Just missed the anniversary a little bit, but still not too long after. Like, they can talk about it, make the announcements around February or close to that time, but the game could actually come out in March. So hypothetically speaking, what if we get a Skyward Sword 4K along with a Monster Hunter Rise and a Switch revision in March?
It'd be insane if one day, like, the day that Nintendo puts 4K on a box, I'm gonna be like, I'm gonna die.
I just feel like, but for Skyward Sword, it'd be crazy. It would be so easy to do because
it would. It just feels
game.
Like the least Nintendo thing ever. Like, but they did adopt HD.
Right,
they
go back
just
to the Wii era.
adopted like 10 years after it was a thing.
Yeah, well, I mean, they're already a few years behind now, right? So I think it's conceivable. They may not call it Skyward Sword 4K, but I'm just saying they might. Wouldn't it be interesting though? Like that, because the interesting thing about it is that by calling it 4K, that would really help to push and market a Switch revision, Like, if that Switch revision, obviously, like, if they're calling it Skyward Sword 4K, it's because a Switch revision runs it in 4K.
Right.
I just think that would be a beautiful way to really push the system. But this is all with the assumption that the Switch revision's coming out this March.
And that it does 4K.
And that it does 4K. Those are assumptions.
And that Nintendo cares to market that in the name of their title when only one of the 3 systems actually does 4K.
That's a good point. But you can still play it on the other system. But that is still a good point, because at that point, then if you play on your Switch Lite or your regular Switch, you don't have that option. So maybe that's why they wouldn't do it.
And only in one mode too.
Yeah.
But then again, they do have 8K 120 FPS on the PS5 boxes, and there's like no games that do that. So
yeah, I mean, it's more of a.
It's like it can hit 8K or 120, but it doesn't typically both. It's like, it can hit 4K, but it doesn't have to always hit 4K to be on the box.
Right, right. I mean, so it kind of goes both ways. Like, oh yeah, you want to have that 4K? Well, you're gonna have to buy one of these new systems. But that's kind of part of the thing, right? Like, it helps to push it. And again, it's not even a prediction. I think it could be the case, but I wouldn't call it like a hard prediction. I'll still take credit for it if it happens.
I just wanted to talk about that because I just found it interesting.
Yeah.
Just
Absolutely.
Little point.
Yeah. But anyway, though, it's cool though, right? That we're with this partner showcase, right? We're starting to the beginning of the year is really filling up. Because Bravely Default 2 and not Monster, but Bowser's Fury coming out this February. But we
know like bigger, not like more games, but like the amount of like, I guess like if you want to compare what we know for spring to what we are getting this holiday, spring might be bigger than this holiday. You know?
Yeah. Oh well, but yeah.
It's close, which is strange. It's usually not close.
If we just take what we already know about, 3D World plus Bowser's Fury, Monster Hunter Rise, and Bravely Default 2 versus Pikmin 3 and Hyrule Warriors, like it's comparable. I think most people. I think Hyrule Warriors: Age of Calamity is the most hyped thing out of all of those things, but Monster Hunter Rise might be a better game than Hyrule Warriors: Age of Calamity. Basically, just because Hyrule Warriors: Age of Calamity, while I think it's really good, at the end of the day, it's still a Warriors game. So it's Monster Hunter Rise is Monster Hunter, and Monster Hunter is amazing. So, we'll see how things turn out. And I'm not trying to say that I didn't enjoy the demo, just for the record. I think Age of Calamity is actually a really good game, but there's just a difference there. But I just want to get your thoughts on what we saw of Bravely Default 2. Is there anything in particular that stood out to you about the game? Because I know you were a fan of Octopath Traveler, right?
I was, yeah.
You kept telling me that it's a great RPG and I should play it, and I never did.
It is. It's awesome.
I played the demo. It was awesome.
It's great.
Yeah.
So yeah, I'm looking forward to it just because Octopath was good, but I never played the first one or that like sequel that apparently wasn't the second one. So what was it? Bravely Default and then
Bravely Second.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I don't have anything to go with the story, but I know that Square's, they're great developers. They made Octopath, great game, so I'm looking forward to that. I'm not a huge fan of the character designs. I love the art style other than that, but the character designs, I'm like, this, I mean, it kind of worked when it was on the 3DS, but moving that to HD just looks odd.
It has a unique art style. The characters definitely are funny.
I love how the world looks. I just don't like how the characters look. They just look like they're still the same like proportions as the 3DS games,
just blowing up into beautiful HD. They're well done. It's just the design themselves are awkward, but I think that it's by design. But your point is simply that it made more sense on a small screen, though, right? Because it's like
it made more sense on the weaker platform because you couldn't really do. They didn't have the power to make higher quality models, so they just did what they had. But
this game is definitely more ambitious than Octopath Traveler from a graphical perspective.
Oh yeah, way more.
Yeah.
It looks, and the environments look great. And the characters, they look good. I'm just like, for what they're going for, they look good. I just don't like what they're going for that much.
Yeah, all I can really tell you is that it looks like a pretty good RPG. And definitely feel like maybe going for this one. So I'm interested. I'm absolutely interested. I think my thing about Octopath Traveler, which sort of held me back from doing it, is that initially the concept behind it seemed like there were going to be 8 different stories that were intertwined perfectly.
Yeah.
And it didn't really it didn't really do that at all.
Yeah, the stories are very separate.
It's almost like just having like 8 different campaigns, right? That tell you different stories, but they don't really mix. So
they're just in the same.
The whole
world.
name Octopath Traveler doesn't really seem to fit too well. It's like, hey, game with 8 games.
They're not completely separate though. They're still set in the same world, so you see a lot. Like the lore is still the same,
right,
for each one. So that's kind of how they interact. Is like they're different. They're like 8 different perspectives on one world.
Yeah.
So. It's like
But-
you're getting all the different aspects.
Yeah.
You're getting all the different points of view from all different aspects of life from this one place.
Right. It's just that it had potential to be a far more
Yeah.
beautifully interwoven story of 8 different paths, which is not what it ended up being. Still good, just
No.
not what we were hoping for. So that to me sort of held me back a little bit. I still should have played it. Just
The
I got a
gameplay is
backlog.
on itself is addicting, like even without the story at all.
I love the
gameplay's super
gameplay when
good.
I remember playing it. Like the music was beautiful, the lighting engine was beautiful. Like it's hype.
Oh,
Like
yeah.
when it's really cool when you're in a fight and it picks up. Like that is really exciting.
Yeah, the customization is really well done. It's super addicting to like collect things and upgrade and find new abilities and things. The RPG mechanics are super well done, so it's super addicting. So that's kind of what I love most about RPGs. Honestly, it's just like getting levels and like having a really good battle system and upgrading. Unless it's Xenoblade, then it's just story. I love the battle system, but like the story in that is so good. But typically for
in
RPGs,
Xenoblade, I love like
I'll get
I
sucked
love
into the
trying to
systems.
push the boundaries of damage output, and I also enjoy the story and just exploring the world, which is why Xenoblade's awesome. But
Yeah.
let me check in with the chat real quick, and then we'll move on to the other parts of the partner direct here. Paul Dunn, I think Fire Emblem Anniversary is almost proof of games bigger than it. Metroid, etc. will have plans for Anniversary. Yeah, and that was kind of the inciting incident for the video I made this weekend. Seeing the Fire Emblem Anniversary celebrations like that was pretty cool. But I guess the thing is, like, you could argue that Fire Emblem's definitely bigger than Metroid. It's definitely been selling better because their games have been coming out. But I think Metroid has potential to definitely exceed Fire Emblem. It just Nintendo needs to give it that chance, and maybe with some sort of 35th anniversary celebration blowout sort of thing in 2021, they could push it to that level. Armchair analysis: if we see Monster Hunter in Smash, she will probably be revealed the same month of Rise's release. Maybe.
When is that? Well, let's really see March. I feel like they might show it off a bit earlier.
The character could come out before the game comes out. Just saying.
Yeah.
Or it could be the other way around. We get another character that's unrelated to Monster Hunter, then afterwards that the character is revealed. But we will see.
Yeah.
Like how often do we? I mean, just think about the DLC characters. So we
You
got
see-
Joker. There was
I
no.
think the only time we've ever seen a character get into Smash or even get like announced for Smash before the game's even out would be
Hero.
a Fire Emblem character.
No.
Oh yeah, Hero. Well, technically, his game was out, just not on the Switch.
Okay. Yeah.
A game
Yeah.
that was literally not out yet on any platform. So we've only seen that.
That
with
was on Smash
Fire
for
Emblem.
Wii U and 3DS, right?
Yeah,
Yeah.
we saw that for what I forget his name, but you know the Fire Emblem character they added for DLC in Smash Wii U.
Corrin.
Yeah,
Yeah.
he was out. I think before he was at least announced before his game came out. So
Yeah.
that's the only time
tricky.
we've ever seen that before. So
Yeah.
I mean, could it happen again? Sure, but will it? I don't know.
We'll see what happens. I think it makes sense for the game to be available first. I think I don't know. Like I said, we did see with Hero, but to your point, Brandon, the game existed elsewhere already. I think considering the history of Corrin, considering what they did with Hero, they could conceivably come out with a Monster Hunter character before Rise releases. Not to mention, there's already a history of Monster Hunter on Nintendo systems, and including the Switch. So even if a Monster Hunter Rise character would obviously, if that were to happen, if it comes out before the game comes out, it wouldn't be for that particular game, but because there's other Monster Hunter games, it would still there'd still be something
Yeah,
there.
it still work.
Yeah. So maybe I do still think there's a really good chance we could see a Monster Hunter Rise character. The timing of when that character is revealed and when it comes out, that's what I'm uncertain on right now.
Yeah, I feel you.
Let's see, moving on here. Ronnie Fazio added me. I agree about the numbering problem. I think that was the reason why Sega's how am I pronouncing it right? Valkyria Chronicles 4 didn't sell that well at launch, despite the game and the franchise being amazing. Yeah, I mean, you see a 4, and if you're not familiar with the previous ones, you're not going to be really willing to give it a try, right? And there are exceptions to that, but, you know, in general, numbering, I think, actually is kind of limiting. If it's a recurring franchise, if it's a story that you intend on ending and never doing again, that's a little different. Like for example, when they initially the Prime trilogy was only meant to be a trilogy, so numbering it then made sense. But once you're done with that story, you know, numbering it, I think is I think it just puts a limitation you don't need on there. So, but let's continue on with the partner showcase stuff there. Moving beyond Bravely Default 2, there are some little things that I don't really care to talk about. There's that UFO thing that seems kind of cute, but I don't know. I'm not sure if I'll actually even get around to
honestly, if it wasn't big, I just skipped through it. Like, I was like,
I fast forwarded through some of the stuff, but one thing that was huge was seeing No More Heroes. Now, what's cool is that I haven't gotten a chance to play yet, so forgive me, on the Switch, but No More Heroes 1 and 2, if I'm correct, they're both running at 60 frames per second and they're in HD, but it from what I've seen...
I think they're both 1080p 60, right?
It's the 1080p versions of the Wii version, not the... There is an HD one on the PS3, and it looks different. And I think a lot of people didn't want that version, so in a way you could argue this is kind of the best of both worlds. So you're still getting a clean 1080p version of these games at 60 frames per second on the Switch, and they're brought out the day that it was announced, which is awesome. I love it when they do that. I think I don't know if Nintendo is listening to me specifically, but definitely I think Nintendo took some notes from the outcry of the first partner showcase, because one of the problems of the first partner showcase is that, one, even though they said it would be about just their partners, what we got wasn't really anything exciting in the near future. It was all for stuff coming later down the road. And then after that point, they seem to have taken note, and every time we get a partner showcase,
none of them have come afterwards as the first one.
Right, exactly. And the things we get in that partner showcase, some of that stuff we get to play immediately. Whenever a partner showcase comes, what it does mean is that eShop is going to be a little bit better afterwards. So yeah.
I find it funny. It's these two games. I feel like they had more work put into them than the Mario 35th Anniversary Collection, because they got 1080p and widescreen and 60 FPS fixed. So it's like
good pricing too.
Right? You can get
both games for less than $40.
Yeah, I think they're 20 each, but I think they're on sale right now, so...
I should probably buy them now.
They're like 15 each, I think, right now.
Yeah. It's a good deal. It's a great deal. And it gives us more things to play right now. We'll wait for 2021. I definitely intend on picking both up on my Switch. That's going to be nice to have on there. I'm pretty excited about that. But the trailer was weird,
but
great, funny. Like they're like, "Oh, here's No More Heroes 3."
I love how they actually got the voice actors to come back and like record specific lines just for the trailers.
Yeah,
like they did for Joker's Smash reveal.
It was cool. I did notice that. But that final scene where it was just like, they put like dancing PNGs of some random lady in a dress, and Travis just rotating around.
Super, dude. That's super early 2000s, like Xbox 360 Doritos, when Call of Duty first came out, like Call of Duty.
Yeah.
Cringe, like mid 2000s era.
But it's like self-aware, right? So like they're doing it on purpose.
Yeah.
So you're not like, oh, this is terrible, but you're like, oh wow, they're really being terrible on purpose, and it's great.
Yeah. It's great. It's exactly the type of humor that game embodies. So.
Yeah, I'm excited for it, and I don't think No More Heroes 3 looks like a super graphically intensive game. Like, I think it looks pretty simplistic. Not bad looking, just simplistic, but this is not a big studio. This is
I mean, it's basically an indie game. I think it is technically like
It looks like a
it's
natural
small.
evolution of what they did with the previous 2 games.
It's grittier, like because there's more texture, right? Like we saw a close-up view of Travis's face, and I was like, "Oh God, that's not pretty." But they didn't want it to be pretty, which is kind of, it's interesting how they did that. But I'm definitely, I'm excited for the game itself, and I still think it's visually appealing, but it's definitely has a simpler style.
Yeah. It's not gonna blow you away. You're not gonna look at it and be like, "Oh my gosh, this game is."
Well, the game blows you away with its personality. That's where it
Yeah.
blows you away, and that's the thing, kind of sets it apart from everything else. It's there's nothing really that's quite like it. So I'm definitely excited for that. But going beyond No More Heroes, though, we got. Let's talk about. Should we? I think now is the time to talk about the cloud stuff, and we'll save Zelda for like the final part of the podcast. We got 2 pretty decent third-party big games to the Switch, and one of them was available immediately, which is really cool. And that's Control, which was one of the Game of the Year candidates from last year, and the other game I'm referring to is Hitman 3. But both of them are cloud games. Now, I was pretty busy this weekend. I didn't get a chance to play Control yet. Brandon, I don't know if you tried it out on the Switch, did you?
I did not. But I heard a lot of people talking about it.
Yeah. I heard a lot of people talk. I heard a lot of impressions.
I didn't know. Is it free? I didn't know if it was free.
There is
or
a
not,
demo of Control, but to have access to it for an indefinite amount of time, meaning that at some point it may end, but that's not been specified yet.
I'll have to try it. I would
Control for $40.
I would have tried it because I'm curious.
Version. I'm probably gonna try it soon.
I suspect I know how it's gonna go, but I'm still curious to see what results I get personally. On my own unit, in my own place, on my own internet.
I'm thinking for me, it's probably gonna work perfectly. Maybe I'll be wrong. I've heard some people suggest it's been bad, but I've also heard other people say it runs really nicely. Like it felt like feels pretty smooth. Like it feels like it's running in the game natively. Like if you have good internet, it's gonna feel like you're running the game natively. And what's interesting is that if you have a strong, healthy internet connection, and you don't like playing portably, this is like the best of both worlds, because you can get a game that couldn't normally run in your Switch, and it could be like the PC version, basically.
The hard part is getting a good internet connection on your Switch.
And being someone that doesn't care to play portably.
Yeah, well, that's me.
Right.
I got that one checked off.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's just the internet on the Switch is... I mean, we were talking about it, last week? I was talking about, xCloud on the Switch and why I was thinking maybe they would wait for a Switch Pro or a next-gen Switch, because the Wi-Fi on the Switch is terrible, and even Ethernet, if you even hardwire it, it's still not good. So I totally believe people when they say that it's a horrible mess when they play Control on the Switch. I'm like, yeah, that's about what I thought. Because I played... Now, my internet connection, I don't have a hardwired, it's still Wi-Fi, but I'm really close to the router, and it's a strong signal. So it's like basically flawless. But I have a 300 megabits per second connection, and I was playing Immortals Phoenix Rising, which is actually a really good game, but I was playing on a really terrible platform, Google Stadia, and which has, to be fair, their servers are good, but it was not a completely flawless experience. Like, sometimes it would stutter, or sometimes I would notice like macro blocking popping up and compression artifacts and stuff popping up. My image quality would dip a bit, and it was only a 1080p 30 FPS connection, so it wasn't like amazing at the beginning. And so I could see, like, even on my PC on running on Stadia on Google Chrome, which isn't the best way to run Stadia, but still, it's not like terrible. It wasn't perfect experience. So I can imagine, like, on the Switch, that can't be that great. Also, Stadia is like a dedicated streaming platform, whereas these are like just like servers. Like it's not a dedicated platform. It's just certain games that you can have it. So the servers probably aren't as good.
Wouldn't part of that depend on how many people are playing that at a time, though?
Yes and no. It also depends on where you live, because they probably don't have that many servers. So there's probably one server place.
So
and if you live close to it,
location, it's better or worse.
Yeah.
Interesting. Huh. I want to check.
So something like Stadia might work better than that because they have more server places. I imagine this probably only has like one server per country.
Yeah, I want to check in with specifically with Chronical's comment because it's in reference to this. The game ran fine for me on my 18 megabyte down internet over Wi-Fi. My standards aren't super high, but it's definitely playable. Playable is nice. I think.
Yeah.
I think. I guess the thing is, like, I do personally have somewhat of an issue with paying money for something that isn't guaranteed to run or play well on my Switch. Like, that is a concern. And obviously, maybe it isn't obvious, but I also think that when you have a Switch, the idea of having a Switch, especially if you have the base Switch, right, is for it to be a hybrid. So when you play in cloud game, when you go portably, if you're on Wi-Fi, sure, it could still work, but typically when you're using the portability of it, yeah, I mean, I do like playing portably in my house sometimes, but in general, if I'm in my house, I'm probably gonna play on the TV, unless there's some sort of circumstances, like there's other people around or something, but in general, I'm gonna play on the TV at home. So when I'm playing portably, I'm away from home, not necessarily with Wi-Fi available. You then no longer have the option to play these cloud games because you don't have Wi-Fi, you don't have an internet connection. That's kind of, you lose part of the value. Like, so if you can't use the game in both modes because it's a cloud version, that I feel like that sort of lessens the value of the game. Now, some people have hotspots. Like, I have a hotspot on my phone. I could use that to connect my Switch, and maybe that would be good enough to run cloud games well. And I haven't tested that out yet. Actually, that's something great to maybe test out later this week. But that is something that I have to kind of see, and I think it ranges for different people, different circumstances. It doesn't work for everyone.
Mm-hmm.
So, it's tricky how this works, but I still think it's a nice idea that if it's not even possible,
it's a nice option.
Right, if it's not even possible otherwise, definitely give that to us, because it's better than nothing, absolutely. And
I would prefer it with something like Stadia on the Switch, or xCloud on the Switch. Like, I want to pay for a service and get the games on anywhere I want. I want the Switch to be another platform I can play that game on. Like, I don't want to just own the cloud version only on the Switch. Like, I want to own a service that allows me to own it on my Switch and my PC and my Xbox and my iPhone. I can stream it to anything. I don't want to be paying for cloud version
now we're
just
talking about
for
xCloud,
the Switch.
aren't we?
Right. That or Stadia. Like, I want a platform,
Right.
Because that's what, a lot of other platforms are doing. So if I'm going to, depending on how they price it, if they price it cheap enough, that's a good deal. But, like, if I'm paying $60 for a cloud version of, Hitman or Control, I feel like that's not a great price.
I think who was it? Phil Spencer, the guy from Microsoft. He was asked about more Switch ports, and basically he said something along the lines of preferring that they move more towards a platform idea. Which I feel like the implication of that is that Microsoft would prefer to get their platform on Switch if possible. So it would be great to see xCloud on Switch, but of course Nintendo has to agree to that. And I've heard different people sort of talk about this. My personal take is that I think there is something there with a platform
I think, Nintendo's obviously dabbling with it now with these cloud games. These aren't the first cloud games, but they're the first cloud games we've seen in the Western market. I think eventually a subscription-like service makes sense. And considering the demand for Microsoft games on Switch, maybe xCloud would be that solution. But I also feel like what could happen is that maybe, I don't know, like I wonder if like Nintendo and Microsoft could like come up with a deal to have like a customized version of xCloud, like maybe an xCloud, where it doesn't include all the typical offerings of xCloud, but it does include approved third-party games, like for example Control and Hitman on this service, but it also includes Microsoft published games as well, but it doesn't include all the other games that are on xCloud normally. It's like a weird hybrid, but maybe if it's this weird hybrid, Nintendo would be willing to have that on there, and then all of a sudden we do have that cloud platform on there, and we get Microsoft games on Switch. Like that,
it's not out of the question.
Awesome.
If you look at how they're handling their kind of infrastructure here, they have xCloud as a part of Game Pass Ultimate. I'm not sure if you can get. I assume you could probably get xCloud by itself too, but it just comes with Game Pass Ultimate.
Mm-hmm.
So maybe it might just be that they're the same price, so you might as well get both, so there's not an option to get them separately. I'm not sure, but anyways, I think that's $15 a month last time I checked. It might be 20, but it's not much. It's like the Nintendo online service, but every month. Not expensive, and they don't. But my point is, they don't have every game on every single platform that Game Pass is on. It's like my Game Pass on PC is a different Game Pass, it's a different library from the Game Pass on Xbox.
Mm-hmm.
And I imagine next gen will take that into account too, where there's some games on like the Xbox Series X Game Pass that's not on the original because the games aren't supported. So it's not like they're not already excluding games from each different platform. So if there was a Switch version of Game Pass or xCloud, it would make sense for not every single game to be on that version. And they might have games on the Switch version that's not on the other versions.
Yeah, how do you feel about the idea, though, that Nintendo and Microsoft work together to sort of rebrand the xCloud to be like a different... Like, I know you're saying there's already a different version of it, but like a Nintendo-marketed xCloud version. Like, it's a collaborative program between both companies.
Well, it makes sense.
Because they would give Nintendo more
call
control.
It Nintendo xCloud or NXCloud, because that's how they like... PC or Game Pass for PC is how they do it. They'll probably do xCloud for Nintendo Switch is how they name it.
Okay. So yeah, there would still be that collaboration, that approved title sort of thing, and I think obviously both of them would have to get some cut of the pie, right? And then obviously any third parties that are involved, they have to make money off games they put on the platform. So that makes sense. So here's another sort of consideration here. With cloud games and that becoming more and more prevalent, I feel like, and again, I think we touched on this last time, but I feel like it increasingly makes it more of a need for there to eventually be some sort of portable internet solution for the Switch. I'm talking about like a 5G SIM card or something like that.
Mm-hmm.
And obviously, it wouldn't work for the current Switches, but... And it's conceivable for, I think, a Switch revision. Not likely. But I think going into next gen, that could be one of the things that would separate it from the current generation of Switches, where that Switch becomes truly portable in the sense that you have access to online functionality on the go from the system. Of course, knowing Nintendo, they could be like, oh, we'll just use your hotspot. Which, yeah, I mean, actually, that might work, and as plans are continually upgraded and modernized, a couple years from now, more people may have a more readily available hotspot, and maybe that's how.
And people kind of complain hotspots aren't that fast right now, but if you have 4G, if you have a good 4G connection, it's plenty fast enough. And with 5G coming out, like a 5G hotspot's gonna be nice. Like,
the other day,
it's gonna be really good.
I have a 5G phone now, and because I got the iPhone 12, and
I got off my Wi-Fi, made sure it wasn't connected to my Wi-Fi, and I did an internet speed test. And I'm, just for the record, I'm currently living in the middle of Pennsylvania. I moved away from the city, so I'm not in the city area. And I got 125 down. And like,
Nice.
I might be remembering wrong, but it was somewhere between like 8 and 12 up. Like
that's like the average, like,
that's like a home. That's Wi-Fi. Like a solid.
Yeah, that's like home Wi-Fi.
That's a solid home internet connection, and that was from my phone. So, and I'm not like in the best area for internet, you know. So that was I was impressed.
Yeah, as 5G gets more available, maybe hotspots will be plenty, you know.
Yeah. And that could be a thing, and it'll be a cheaper alternative. But I'm just saying that as cloud gaming becomes more important, and as 5G or who knows in the future they'll probably do 6G or something like that. As internet becomes more prevalent and cloud gaming becomes more prevalent, it really wouldn't shock me if Nintendo does decide to do something with their next generation hybrid platform and have some sort of internet capability there. Obviously, we've seen it before with the Vita. It didn't really pan out, and that was back with 3G, which isn't nearly as good. And obviously, it was probably more expensive then. As internet becomes more commonplace now, the idea of having a device that has 5G capabilities is not like a crazy luxury thing. It's becoming increasingly more of just like a common
having
standard.
Data isn't really a luxury thing anymore either. Like they're just begging you to take unlimited plans these days.
Yep. There's if you do not have unlimited data, you're probably on an older plan. And sometimes it still makes sense to be on those plans, but there's a lot more it's becoming
if I get a
common.
new plan, like I'm gonna get an unlimited plan.
Yeah. It's just becoming more common. So I wouldn't be surprised if in the future Nintendo does look into that, but because of how Nintendo is with their online and such, and always trying to cut corners, they probably wouldn't go that way, but they might, is what I'm saying. So, you know, just something to sort of consider with the next generation.
Yeah.
But let me check in with the chat, and then I think, is there anything else you want to sort of say in terms of this cloud situation? Like, I think it's a cool thing. It's at least something that will allow us to get more third-party games on the Switch to some capacity, which is better than nothing. But I think we still have a long ways to go.
Yeah. It's, I mean, if you have a good internet connection, it's easily the best-looking games on the platform.
Yeah, that is one neat thing. Actually, there is one more little idea I want to run by you. Like, for games that have dynamic resolutions and such, what if they offered you another option? Like, what if they still make the game for Switch? So, say for example, Doom Eternal. Doom Eternal has the portable mode, which probably runs like at 378p or something like that portably, and like 640 or 680, maybe if we're lucky 720p in docked mode, but probably not. Then what if they also offer a third like graphical option if you have a good internet connection, where like, hey, here's an integrated cloudish version that sort of builds off what you already have existing on the Switch. For those who have internet set up already, it's like, oh, this version, it allows you to run the game better because they kind of stream part of it or all of it, so you can have that higher fidelity version when you're connected to the internet. That is the only option, but as a part of the package. I think that'd be pretty good. Like, who's gonna complain about that? You know, like if
nobody's gonna complain.
Right. Because if you already have the game running on your Switch, no matter what, it's just if you lose your internet connection, it scales down because it's not streaming off a better PC version.
Yeah, that'd be
no
interesting.
kidding. Nope, you're not a part of the
party.
It
would require some, if you wanted to do it like on the, like, it could be either one at any moment, that would definitely take some engineering. But if they just wanted to have like a separate, like you could boot into a cloud version of the game, or, you know, then that would be possible. I mean, it'd be extra money because they'd have to pay for servers, and I don't know if they'd find it, like how many people would actually use it. That'd have to be up to the developers to decide if that's worth it for them.
Yeah.
But it'd be a cool thing. Yeah, cool option.
But I think we need to move on. So,
yeah, we do.
Let me check on the chat here, and then we'll get to the final topic of the night. Ronnie Fazio added me. I haven't tried controlling the Switch. I'm not a cloud kind of guy, especially when I have to pay for individual games. If they bundle it into a Nintendo Switch Online, that's different. I mean, yeah, like if it's like an expansion to Nintendo Online or some sort of xCloud partnership, something like that, I'd be more willing to give a try.
That's exactly what I was saying earlier. I feel you.
Yep. Ronnie Fazio added me again. The option is great, and if there was no way the game was going to be on Switch anyway, then have at it. I just hope publishers don't get lazy and just use cloud as a crutch for the Switch. Yeah, I see your point with that. That is a concern. I think
I don't think cloud gaming's popular enough for them to
rely on it.
Yeah, because most people aren't going to get the cloud version. It's something that you only do if it's your only option. Otherwise, like, there's way more money to be had releasing the actual version if you think people will buy it.
If cloud games are selling well or selling okay, then maybe they would use it as a crutch. Because porting games takes a lot of effort. Like, we are still waiting on the Doom Eternal version for Switch.
Right. But the cloud ones, depending on how big your game is, how much work it needs to be put to the Switch, that might be more money over time because you have to pay to keep the servers up constantly.
Interesting. And that's an interesting point.
So you're paying over a period of time.
Yeah.
So that would have to be up to the developers to kind of, look and see what's worth it for them monetarily. There's different factors to consider.
Yeah. Birdman added me, how much would Nintendo cost customers for a cellular data and revision Switch? Okay, so like, how much would a data plan for a Switch revision or next generation Switch with, say, 5G cost? That's tough. And I think part of the problem, Nintendo would either
it'd be like 30 to 50 a month. Seems reasonable, like somewhere in there.
I don't think that's reasonable. That's me.
I mean, you're paying. It's no, like, you're gonna have to pay for the same stuff like if you were paying for cell on a phone.
Yeah, I mean, that's the tricky part, right?
So they can't really make it cheaper. Like, what are they gonna do?
That's the thing. Like, it just feels
it's gonna be like having
price.
A second phone bill, unless they work with the companies and have it as like.
Yeah.
Like, if you you can get deals cheaper opening a second line with somebody, as opposed to, it's not the same price as opening, your first line. It's cheaper, So they might do it like that, where it's a cheap add-on to your bill instead of just having to open a whole second line,
personally,
completely separately.
Personally, and this is just me personally. Even though I agree with you, Brandon, like, just looking at the prices for data plans and such, like, that's not a lofty number, what you said, because of what it already costs to get data plans and such. But personally, in terms of what I would have sort of associate with the value of that, I think 20 is kind of already a high asking price for that. Just because... Yeah. See, when you're getting a data plan on your phone or a tablet, presumably you're using that for work or you're using it with high frequency and you're traveling a lot. But if you're just doing it for when you're not on Wi-Fi on your Switch to play games that need the online connection, not all games do, that it's not like a super, super common thing. So that's kind of part of where it gets kind of tricky. Like, how much are people willing to pay for that, And I guess that's kind of part of the snag and the problem, but I'm also not talking about this idea being soon. Like, I think we're kind of years away from it still. Would I love the idea of a Switch revision to come out next year and it would have a SIM card slot to give us that option for those who are willing to do something like that? Yeah, I would love the option for it. It would probably not be something that everyone would use, only some people would use. And I'll tell you that because I have hotspots, multiple, so I probably would use that instead because it would be cheaper for me.
Yeah.
But it's
man, the pricing of it would be tough, and I would hope that if I think it makes sense for the Switch long term, eventually for us to get to a point where devices like Switch have that running on it. But I think for now, the idea of it, anything like a legitimate like 5G sort of like unlimited plan on a Switch, $30 to $50 like is expensive, but also it makes sense. It's tough.
Yeah.
I'll say that
costs.
if you have an existing plan, you can get tablets for $20 a month, unlimited data, just like that. So if you have an existing plan, maybe they can pull off a deal like that where you get unlimited data for $20 a month, which I still feel like is a lot for what you're using it for. But you know, maybe 5 years from now, the idea of having a limited plan is just like $10 a month for like if it's an add-on to an existing phone plan. But we'll see.
Yeah.
But I'll get back to more questions after the final topic here, because we need to talk about this, and this one could be the longest one, but probably won't, because we're getting near the end here. Hyrule Warriors: Age of Calamity. We got the demo, we saw the game, and like, I mean, we could talk about. There's so much to talk about. Let's first talk a little bit about the trailer. Divine Beasts are playable.
Oh yeah.
Like what?
I
That's
have very
crazy.
mixed feelings, not on them being playable, but them showing it. It's like I think that's super cool, but I kind of wish I hadn't seen it. I kind of wish like I
Would've
got
been
to
a
that
nice
point
surprise,
in the game
right?
and been like mind blown. You know?
Yeah, it's pretty sick. I wonder, like, it kind of was like a little bit like Star Fox almost, because he was just like shooting laser beams down. I'm curious how that'll work out. I'm curious how that'll play into the gameplay, if it's just like a separate mission, or if it's like a separate segment, or if it's something you have to do to sort of maintain
My
the battle.
theory is, because we know that at towards the end they split up to go to their divine beasts and like take the divine beast to go fight Ganon. I think this is that segment where they get to the divine beast, they're trying to take the divine beast where they need to go, and you pilot each one by one to try to get in position. But then they end up getting defeated, you know. That's probably, I think they'll have that segment where you go through that, and then they'll show them getting defeated. And
So you're saying it'll just be it'll be like a mission, each one, and it ends with a boss fight where you could die. That's crazy.
I that's a theory that I have, a way it could go.
I think it's a decent segue, actually. So you're talking about the champions dying, but, and this is we're talking about the demo now, guys. So if you don't want to hear about the demo, this is your warning. Okay, I'd love it for you to stay on and hear about it. And I don't think this will really ruin your experience of the game if you haven't played the demo yet, but technically spoilers, which is why I'm giving you that warning. So basically, in the demo, Brandon, I mean, you played the demo, you saw the opening cutscene. The Guardian, the mini Guardian, we see it for the first time, not at the beginning of the story of the Calamity before it happens, but actually after it's already happened. In other words, when Link has fallen and Zelda's about to try and seal Ganon for 100 years, that's when the mini Guardian comes to life. Like when Zelda activates her powers fighting off the Guardians before Link falls. And then it's like, oh man, everything's wrecked. Okay, time to go back in time and fix it. That's what it does. The mini Guardian jumped back in time. So
unexpected. It's just out of nowhere. Like, I was not expecting time travel to come into this all of a sudden with this guy. Like, we didn't know what he did before. I never expected him to be like a weird time traveling mini Guardian.
Yeah. The fact that it can even time travel is kind of crazy. And we know the Zelda team has worked on this and looking at the designs and stuff, and you got it. Did they approve this idea? And if they did, is this canon? What does it mean for the story? Like, because the Guardian's goal is to not let what happens, right? And from what we see, it looks like it ends just the way it ends going, or the way we see the story in Breath of the Wild. But this Guardian's trying to do things differently. And we see the tapestry, and the tapestry includes a mini Guardian, a newer version of it, as almost as if it's like a different telling of what's going to happen. So is the implication this is a new timeline is this a timeline split where maybe the champions don't die, or is this more like a Skyward Sword situation where there is time involved, but it's just always part of the continuity? Like, that's just part of the story, and it's a self-fulfilling prophecy. No matter what, whatever that mini guardian does, it's going to ultimately lead to the events that are in Breath of the Wild.
I wonder if it is the same ending as, it's the same canon as what we see in Breath of the Wild, but that canon is different from the canon of the universe that the mini guardian just time traveled from. Like,
so what you're suggesting is even worse.
Yeah, like, it was even worse before. Yeah.
But so
at least he comes and does some stuff that at least gives them a chance to come back in Breath of the Wild and win.
Right.
Whereas maybe in his timeline they didn't even have that chance at all.
So, but we saw multiple cutscenes, right, in Age of Calamity, and from what I saw, it didn't seem to be necessarily any worse than what happens in Breath of the Wild. Like, there was nothing there that made it clear that it was worse. So, while I see your idea, I don't... Like, we've already seen them tell us what supposedly happens in the future. And it seems to be the same as what's in Breath of the Wild. So, I'm not sure I believe that's what's happening. Like, maybe they could present...
all of it, though. I don't know.
Yeah, they could show us more, right? Like, maybe the mini guardian's like, hey... Like, he plays a video for you, and there's another cutscene where they make it...
There's obviously things that they don't know about, because there's a mission in the mini guardians, like, trying to warn you that things are about to happen, and they don't realize that. Like, if they knew every single thing that the mini guardian knew, they would have known that. Like, there's obviously a ton of stuff that the mini guardian knows that they have no idea.
It's R2-D2.
Yeah.
It's R2-D2 in the sense that, well, one, it sounds and it plays around like R2-D2, and it seems to like want to help you. I love the
sounds it makes.
But it's like also a little stupid, but it just wants to help out, and it's
almost
not
like
stupid.
Does anybody else feel like it almost looks like a little mini teapot?
Yeah, no, I see that. I see that.
Especially when it like does the sound and like the little lid comes up.
Yeah. It definitely, there's a lot of Star Wars vibes I get from it, especially because it has this knowledge and it can't perfectly communicate what's going on, but it wants to help its human brethren save the day.
I like the R2-D2 comparison.
Yeah,
I like it a lot.
I love it. It's just
like a little droid.
It's exactly what it is. It's a Zelda droid. But another thing that we noticed, though, or at least I noticed, I'm sure a lot of people did, is that there's that mini guardian. There's a dark version of that mini guardian in some of the cutscenes in Age of Calamity. So I'm assuming it's the same guardian, right?
Hold on, give me a second.
That's fine. So, anyways, I was saying though is that there is the mini guardian. He's already in the past, right? It's a dark version of him, and actually, when we see the good version of him in the future before he goes back in time, the corruption, the malice is actually rushing towards the mini guardian as it jumps through the little rift in time. So it's almost like it's the malice of Calamity again is trying to corrupt this mini guardian. And I think what we see in the footage as they're, because once they're already in the past, there's a scene where you see like the foot of an evil version of this mini guardian sort of staring at them. So this is already a corrupted version. So maybe the story goes that it's corrupted and then somehow it gets uncorrupted and it's just kind of dead in a box, and then it's good again, and then it goes back in time and the cycle sort of continues. So it could be the case that eventually this mini guardian is going to get corrupted. Like I feel like that's already what's being teased in the trailer, because there was that thing rushing towards it, trying to corrupt it, and it missed. It didn't get corrupted, but there's that attempt there. So it's going to be interesting to see how it all works out. And I guess what's also exciting though is that we don't know for a fact what they're going to do with the story. This kind of puts another curveball in there, along with the ominous figure. There's a lot of details there that I have a lot of curiosity of what's going on with the story, and I do feel like something about this story is going to give us some glimpse into what's going on with Breath of the Wild 2. Like maybe this is a teaser for time travel elements in Breath of the Wild 2, maybe the idea of an Aghanim or a Vati kind of character, as what we're seeing, it looks to be whatever we're seeing with that ominous figure in Breath of the Wild and Age of Calamity, could also be somehow related to the story of Breath of the Wild 2 and the resurrection of Ganondorf. Like, there's a lot of elements here, and we don't know how it's all going to kind of come together. But Brandon,
crazy theory time.
Go on, do it
real quick.
No, just do it. Go for it.
We don't have a lot of time, so okay. What if the reason we don't know about this person is because they're actually somebody who was attempting to not only help Calamity Ganon, but to revive actual Ganondorf, but couldn't. Like, they got stopped. Like, that was part of their plan, was to find Ganondorf and actually revive him. And that's why we've never heard of him, because that wasn't really a known thing. Ganondorf was not a known thing in Breath of the Wild.
Actually,
but maybe this is a hint towards that there was some people who did know and were already trying to revive Ganondorf beforehand.
So, interesting thing. Oh man, this is interesting. Ooh. Okay, all right. I like what you're saying, because I think it kind of makes sense. So hear me out. Because right now I'm a little confused, because I'm not sure what they're going to do. I feel like they shouldn't change the ending, because if they change the ending, it kind of ruins what Breath of the Wild is, and it's just supposed to be like a prequel for it. But that's what seems to that's the Mini Guardian is trying to do. It's trying to change history. So that's its goal. It's trying to change the history that we supposedly saw already. But to your point, Brandon, what if, even though from what we saw so far, it's not clear that it's any different, it looks to be the same, and it looks like it's trying to change what we already see. But to your point, like, what if this ominous figure does tie into the resurrection of Ganondorf, and this whole Calamity Ganon thing that you're referring to, the whole Age of Calamity, is an attempt to fully revive Ganondorf, and they fail. And in this future, and maybe as we play through the game, we'll see, what the Mini Guardian changed was the full resurrection of Ganondorf, right? So what ends up happening is that, yes, the Mini Guardian does succeed in changing history. It changes the history in the sense that it halts the full resurrection of Ganondorf, which would have led to the full destruction of Hyrule. Zelda would not have been able to hold them back, and Link would have been done for 100 years and never would have had an opportunity to be revived to come back and restore Hyrule. So that you see what am I making sense here? It ties into exactly what you're saying. And the only missing piece to this puzzle then would be seeing an additional scene that shows that what the Mini Guardian changed is a history or a timeline where Ganondorf was fully revived at the end of the Age of Calamity. And hopefully what happens is what we're doing, even though the champions will still die, Link will still fall, we still succeed in the sense that we halt the full resurrection of Ganondorf. But what's great about that is if that becomes a huge plot point to stop the full resurrection of Ganondorf, then that perfectly ties into Breath of the Wild 2, where after Link comes back, Zelda comes back together, they unite, they defeat Calamity again, and they stop that part, and they, you can kind of tie with a nice little pretty bow that part of the story. The eventual threat that was always meant to happen for the Age of Calamity is Ganondorf, and that's what we deal with in Breath of the Wild 2. Like that, it could all tie together with what you suggested. Like that's, that makes, I think that it kind of makes more sense than them telling us another story. Like I even though like that's what seems like they're teasing, and I love timeline splits and stuff. Like I think to me that's cool. I just think it would be weird if they were to take away from what's already happened in Breath of the Wild. Like, just kind of, it's like, no, there's another continuity. The champions are alive now. Don't worry about it. Like,
I definitely don't think they'll do that.
They're teasing it though, right? Like, it kind of keeps us. There's an uncertainty, which kind of makes the story more interesting because we don't know what they're gonna do.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Yeah, there's definitely, I think, gonna be some sort of twist, some sort of something we don't know, we haven't seen, that's gonna, I mean, we already have time travel. That was completely unexpected, and that's literally the first cutscene of the game.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I mean, if we're already figuring out, like, big stuff that we didn't know about the story, and we literally just played the demo, then I think there's definitely gonna be some sort of twist, something that deviates from Breath of the Wild. In what way, or or to how much that's actually going to affect like how we think of Breath of the Wild. I don't know, but we'll have to see.
Yeah, it's just kind of crazy stuff. I really like this idea. I think I have to make it into a full video later. Like I think there's something to this mini guardian and the omni. Like, what if there is a connection between the two? You know, like, and it's what we talked about or something along those lines. I think we're onto something here. But let's check in with the chat. Let's see what you guys think, because I know you guys have a whole bunch of ideas as well about what's going on. Let me see what I've missed here. Well, this is from the previous topic, so let me read this first. Chronic Calical. As someone who only owns a Switch, I'd honestly rather have the option to play more games as cloud games than to play the handful of impressive ports but miss out on a ton of games. Like, if it's not going to happen, give us the cloud versions. At least you have that. If you're at home with a solid internet connection, you can still play these games and it'll be a decent version of it. D.E. Fox. I'm going to try out No More Heroes 1 and 2, and if I like them, I'm going to get No More Heroes 3. I think that's definitely the goal. If people like No More Heroes 1 and 2, I think you'll definitely like No More Heroes 3. I think No More Heroes 3 is obviously a more modern version of the game. It will probably play and run a little bit better than the older ones, but those are classics, and they have so much personality, and they are very fun games. So I think if you're into action games with weird twists and personality, I think you're going to really enjoy it. Computer Robots. Since the Game Awards is supposed to be next month, do you think that it's going to be closed as well due to the pandemic, and if it's going to be online? I think that's already confirmed information. I think it's going to be an online-only event.
It's already confirmed.
Yeah.
It's an online event. And it's only going to be an hour. Woo-woo!
That's awesome.
It's an hour or 2 hours. It's shorter.
Less is more. Less is more.
It's going to be a more compact show, and it's going to be glorious.
I hope so. Because they don't have to do like fan reactions or anything like that. You know, it's just like
they're not going to do concerts, and they'll have to wait for each individual person to get up on
stage. They could still probably do concerts, but it would be more like a music video, or hey, look, we're doing a Zoom music thing. Yeah. They could do something.
It's gonna be a lot less in between stuff, and it's just gonna flow better.
Yeah, I prefer a shorter show because I don't have 3 hours to just waste.
No.
Crony Calical added me. I think Egg Guardian's primary purpose is to recreate suspense when we already know the ending from Breath of the Wild, but not much will change. And that is, it may end up being exactly as we think it is, but they're making us have some doubt. And that alone, you know, because we have that suspense, that uncertainty, it does make the story more interesting.
Mm-hmm.
Taker 610. There is also that corrupted mini garden we see outside the Royal Ancient Tech Lab, right? So that also is going to play a role. I don't know. It's weird because I feel like it's gonna be the same mini guardian, just from it's like two of the same guardians just like crossing each other in the same timeline. It's, I don't know, man. There's obviously gonna be a story element. Just the question is, how will it sort of intertwine with all the other moving parts? Chronic Holocaust. I think they're gonna toe the line between retconning and technically we never said there wasn't a time traveling Egg Guardian to keep it canon. Right. Well, I mean that's the interesting thing. They never, as long as it fits into the story without changing any of the major plot points, that's fine. Yeah, I don't have a problem with that. Even if there wasn't necessarily any clues to it before. And like I looked inside Zelda's study to see. There was no like specific box like that, but of course the box falls during the whole battle before we even get to explore. So we're exploring Zelda's study 100 years after this cutscene. So I mean, it's fine. It's not really a plot hole or anything like that.
Yeah.
Birdman added me. It's like the yin and the yang. One cannot exist without the other. The dark mini guardian and light mini guardian. Birdman. So Link will fall again and will sleep for 100 years again? No.
Technically not again. It's just we're seeing it.
Yeah, we're seeing
the perspective of when it first happened.
Yeah, we're just seeing when it first happened. I guess perhaps the confusion is that because we're talking about the possibility of this mini guardian changing history, but what we're not sure is it going to create another continuity, another timeline split where there's this one timeline where the mini guardian does go back in time and it changes history, or it tries to change history and maybe it does succeed, but
It's just whatever its success is, it's a story that we already know, and they just didn't tell us there was a mini guardian that made it better. So basically, the idea would be that the terrible post-apocalyptic world we see in Breath of the Wild could have been worse, and the story of Age of Calamity may highlight that to us.
And I mean, there is room for it to be worse. Like, there could have been no civilization existing afterwards.
Yeah. Technically,
could have wiped out everything.
Because of Breath of the Wild 2, we know that Ganondorf technically isn't fully resurrected, right? And Zelda is holding back Calamity Ganon for 100 years. There is wildlife. It's not like it's all dead and desolate. So, and like you said, there's still some civilization. So, the only thing is that the beginning cutscenes do not make it clear if the future the mini guardian is changing is the future we already have in Breath of the Wild, or if it's a worse future. But maybe we'll find out more about that as we play through Age of Calamity when it comes out in a few weeks. Birdman, and 2 more weeks for Age of Calamity. Like, yeah, I'm freaking out too bad. It's oof. I'm very excited. Let me see here. Taker 6 cents storyline as I had it figured. Are you referring to what we're talking about or something else? You also said you were speaking to Nintendo Josh over here. Definitely, the rogue character is certainly related to the corruption of the Guardians and Beasts. Could be. Let me see what Nintendo Josh is saying here. Yeah, because if the Sheikah tech was never excavated, then there would be nothing for Ganon to corrupt in the first place. So I think that the fortune teller person can somehow talk to Ganon's body to tell him what to corrupt. Maybe. So maybe that ominous figure is a fortune teller. And I'll say that in one of the opening cutscenes at Age of Calamity, they do refer to like a prophecy, that something was prophesized. So maybe they have been led astray by this ominous figure. Could be the case. Hard to say. If I remember
correctly, the prophecy was just like they knew that Ganon was going to come back. That Calamity Ganon.
This is a recurring
10,000 years ago.
Yeah, it's not like it's only happened once. It's happened throughout history.
Mm-hmm. So I think that's just what they were talking about in the demo. They were just talking about like they're just trying to prepare for that eventuality because they knew it was coming.
Yeah, but they didn't have Guardians before. That's the difference.
No.
So it's interesting because I guess they were trying to use the Guardians to make things better, but it really is Star Wars, because it's like Attack of the Clones. Like you have these clones, like, oh man, we got all these clones. But what Calamity Ganon is doing, it's an order. Was it Order 66?
Yes, execute Order 66.
It's oh my god.
I used to be able to do that voice really well, but not right now.
Oh my god. It's very Star Warsy, dude. That's not a video. I'm gonna probably wait till Age of Calamity comes out because there's probably gonna be more Star Wars references, but there's some parallels, dude. It's crazy. Wow. Sabbath64 added me. By the way, guys, we're ending the podcast last couple of minutes, so if you have any final questions or anything, just put it out there and we'll address it real quick. Sabbath64, did you guys pick up Pikmin 3 Deluxe? I'm debating whether I should pick it up. I have not picked it up yet. I did enjoy
interesting
the demo.
Development happened. My younger brother, he doesn't live with me, but I see him every once in a while. He got a Wii U, so maybe I'll just pick up Pikmin 3 for the Wii U.
But you can't play the epilogue story, or play co-op.
Yes, but...
or Ultra Spicy mode.
But
or portably
expensive.
On your Switch. Yeah, I mean, that's true. You could wait. Maybe Pikmin 3 will get a price drop.
Yeah, maybe.
Like, Nintendo didn't really let Pikmin 3 get, like, all the spotlight. They dropped a whole bunch of game information this week.
They were just like, oh yeah, Pikmin 3 is also out. Enjoy.
Yeah. I don't know. Maybe they felt like it was more important to talk about what they have now in full because the next generation system. There's a lot of next generation. That's the thing. Right now, we're seeing a whole bunch of unboxing for PS5 and Series X. So like they probably want to
keep some of the conversation about them. So instead of just giving Pikmin 3 the spotlight, because it wasn't gonna have the spotlight anyway with next generation systems.
No,
that's probably what it is. Yeah,
I think they just realized. I mean, not to be mean to Pikmin, but Pikmin 3 was never gonna be huge. It just wasn't.
No.
I don't even. I'm curious to see how well it's gonna sell. I think it's gonna sell like, decent, but it's not gonna be like mind blowing. It's not gonna.
it eventually sells
break
at least 1 million
records.
copies.
It will sell better than the Wii U version, but I think it'll be like
Will
Paper
it?
Mario, where it didn't sell like insanely well, but it sold decent.
The difference is Paper Mario had Spotlight, And also Paper Mario's a new game.
Yeah.
Pikmin 3 is not even a new game, and it didn't get the Spotlight. Like, that doesn't bode well for it. Not to mention,
I don't think even if it did get the
Paper
Spotlight,
Mario's also more popular than Pikmin, right? Like, I'm not wrong in saying that. So Paper Mario has a lot more going for it than Pikmin. So I don't know if I would bet that Pikmin 3 will match up to Paper Mario sales.
Yeah, the Paper Mario sales weren't that great, though. Is my point. Like, I don't think it will sell.
But why wasn't it? It's a good
well.
game.
I think just people don't believe in Paper Mario anymore. Like, they don't believe it's gonna be good. It's not.
I know people
so it's
weren't
garbage.
in love with the design direction of it, but it's definitely pretty, like, for sure better
It's a great game.
than Sticker Star and Color Splash. Like, it's the best Paper Mario we've gotten in over a decade. Yeah. Let me see here. Oh, there's a few more questions. So let me get to those, and then we'll call it a night, guys. So, Control Alt Dan, hey Andres, big fan. Thank you. I appreciate that. I've been here since around 300 subs. Just whoa, that epic.
Yeah, I've been around for a while.
That is true. Just wondering what your thoughts would be on any sort of Metroid announcements the rest of 2020 and 2021. So I think best case scenario, we get some sort of Metroid teaser at the Game Awards. Like, I think that is a possibility. Do I think it is a likelihood? I do not think it is a likelihood. But definitely a possibility. I'll say that I very strongly believe there are 3 Metroid games in development. I don't think many people will disagree with me on that. Brandon, do you disagree?
No.
Off with your head. I mean, no, you're good. Sorry. So we got the 2D Metroid game that's been in development. We don't know if it's a remake or a new game. I'm inclined to say it's a new 2D Metroid, but we'll see. There's Prime Trilogy HD, which supposedly has been done for a while, and Metroid Prime 4. I think, Brandon, you agree. I think a lot of people agree. Metroid Prime 4 is very clearly a ways off, probably 2022 at the earliest.
2022 at the earliest.
So, but Prime Trilogy and 2D Metroid both, I think, have a really good chance to come out next year. I do think the rumors that paired both Paper Mario and 2D Metroid probably had something there. I'm trying to remember the source of that rumors. I want to say it was from Sabby, although some people have come out and said that maybe Sabby was just pulling information from others, maybe not the most super reliable. I'll have to double check on that, to be honest with you, but I'll say that we did get the Paper Mario thing, and also there was the talk of a holiday game involving tires, which was strongly suggesting Mario Kart. Technically, we did get that. Now, it wasn't Mario Kart 9, but there was a Mario Kart Live Circuit, which is a Toys to Life Mario Kart software that is a game. It involves tires.
It involves tires. Actual tires. Well,
real tires.
But, like real physical things.
Absolutely, and it came out. Came out in October too, which is I would qualify as holiday time. So
it's when we thought that it would probably come out. Like, if Mario Kart 9 was going to come out, I thought probably October was the best bet.
Yeah. So I guess what's interesting about this all is that rumor about a Mario Kart thing or a game about holiday game for tires, technically not wrong. It just wasn't what a lot of us were thinking it was suggesting, but that's the thing with rumors. Like, they might be based in truth, but there's room for interpretation. And so I remember, like, in grade school, like, they would always tell me, like, oh, with rumors, like, they change. That's what rumors are. Like, it's a piece of information that's passed on person by person, and it's not the same. So that rumor about a game about a holiday game involving tires may really have been Mario Kart Live Circuit. But the point of getting at here is that these rumors we've heard about, I don't think they're all wrong. I think they all may be right. It's just kind of a question of how we're interpreting them and when they're happening. So, point is, I'm just saying the 2D Metroid thing, I think probably is not too far off. Even if you take the rumors out of consideration, I still think the 2D Metroid is in development because Mercury's team did such a good job. There's a lot of interest expressed in making another Metroid game at the time, and that was back in 2017. We're in 2020.
I personally, I will say that I expect a Fusion remake. You said you expect a new game. I expect Fusion.
Metroid 5. So you're saying Metroid 4 remake. I'm saying Metroid 5. One or the other.
I think they will eventually do Metroid 5. I think they'll do a Fusion remake first.
It's just back
especially
to back.
Since that's the game they
just
wanted to make.
They just remade Samus Returns, but that's a good point. They want to remake Fusion, so maybe give them that. Although maybe what they really wanted was just to work with the Fusion story and build upon it, which would be Metroid 5. But maybe they could do both, right?
Right. Yeah, they might want to tackle Fusion first to get, because that game probably not the most popular of games. Not many people have played it, obviously. So maybe they want to give that a new audience before continuing that story.
Could be.
Don't want to just come out, going on a story that most people haven't even
actually,
seen
on
yet.
that note, what's really cool about your idea about it being a Fusion remake is that technically Metroid Fusion and Metroid Prime came out at the same time. Back on Nintendo GameCube, like the same day, I want to say.
Really? Wow.
Yeah, let me double check that. I gotta fact check that. I know they came out same year, but probably same day is probably wrong. Metroid Fusion release date November 18, 2002. Oh, I don't know. I think I might be right. Metroid Prime release date. Did I just say November
8th, right?
18th? November 18th was Fusion.
18th.
And November 17th, 2002.
Oh,
so,
damn.
Yeah, crazy, right? So, but point is,
crazy.
both Fusion and Prime came out at the same time. So, what's fascinating about this is that we could see a full circle sort of situation where if it is a Fusion remake, we get the Fusion remake and we get the Prime Trilogy HD remaster around the same time as well. Or maybe, I don't think they should come out at the same time. I think they should come out like
they're kind of coming out. It's gonna be the same. It's gonna be one day after the other.
One day apart. Just say it's an interesting parallel potential. Even though it would be Prime Trilogy and not just Prime, but close enough. I honestly I feel like they should come out first half of one should come out the one half of the year, the other should come out the other half of the year, and then Prime 4 will be the big game next year. Not next year, but 2022. I mean,
where do you feel like it's 2021, guys? We're living in the future.
Actually, 2D Metroid's coming out January, Prime Trilogy's coming out April, and Prime 4 is coming out September. Not true.
No.
Yeah.
Hell no.
Yeah. Continuing on here. I kind of missed some. I got lost in the comments.
I see a comment from South64. I'll read it. He says, not Nintendo related, but will we be getting an Xbox Series X or a PS5? As soon as I can afford it, am getting a PS5 because I'm super hyped for it. And if I eventually might get a Series X if I have extra money, but I'll probably just buy like a 3080 for my PC, to be honest. But a PS5 I really want to get.
I don't know, man. It's not that I don't want a PS5. I do. It's $500.
I want one so bad. Like,
it's $500.
It's crazy how much you want it. I'm just like, bro, I have to do anything for a PS5.
I want Demon's Souls.
Yeah.
Besides
Is Demon's Souls coming to PC? Are any? I'm not sure.
I want a PS5
games that I want coming to PC.
There's a digital version of PS5, right?
Yeah.
So that's the thing. Like, I might get a digital version, to save $100, I guess. But at the same time, you could argue long term.
Yeah, that one's like 400.
Long term, is it really saving me money though? So like,
probably not.
You have to invest more in solid state drives if you get the digital version. Solid state drives are expensive, and not to mention
Well, technically
you
you
can't sell your
don't
games, really.
sip because even the physical versions, you have to download it because they can't read the data off of the disc fast enough to load
But
it.
it still takes up space in
So
your hardware.
yeah, you still have to download the entire game.
Either way, you're gonna have to be conscientious of your solid state
Because I mean,
drive.
like, think about it.
But
Your Blu-ray's probably only reading at like 50 to 100 megabytes per second.
I guess the other thing though is that
the SSD's doing like 5 gigabytes per second. So
yeah, but the other thing to consider is that you have with actual discs, when you buy the disc, you can sell them, right? So
yeah,
you can
I'm gonna
that
get
could
the
save you
physical
more money
edition,
long
'cause
term.
I feel the same way.
Like there are gonna be some games I just want to keep no matter what, right? But some games like, you know what, I don't need that anymore.
Now, if Xbox had an Xbox Series X digital, I'd buy that because I have Game Pass. So most of my games aren't gonna be physical.
Series S ain't good enough for you.
No, because I want 4K. That my problem is Series S does 1440p, but not every game. It's like how the Switch does 1080p. It's like sure games hit that, but most of the time you're somewhere in between like 1080p and 1440p. And I have a 1440p monitor, so I don't want to be below my resolution I don't want to buy a next-gen system and then be below the resolution of my monitor constantly. I mean,
really, it's just so for me, I want all the systems, but it all comes down to money and time.
Yeah,
I could spend a whole bunch of money on them, and I could, and then I'd not have a lot of money left over, and then, or I'll be like, all right, what games am I gonna play? Okay, and then that's gonna take my time, and it's just like I won't even like have the, I don't know, there's a lot, it's just a lot.
I just really want a PS5. I have a PC to play games that are gonna be on the Xbox, but PlayStation, like Ratchet and Clank and Spider-Man and God of War, and so the cool thing about PlayStation 5 is like they're adding a lot of 60 FPS modes and like higher fidelity modes to games that I haven't played before. Like Spider-Man's getting the remaster, God of War is getting a 60 FPS mode, Ghost of Tsushima is getting a 60 FPS mode. There's a lot of things in the PlayStation that I can't play anywhere else.
That's the thing. I do want a PS5, and Final Fantasy 16 looks amazing. I want a PS5. It's just, will I get it this holiday? Will I wait? I mean, it's gonna be hard to get it at this point.
I'll get it as soon as I can afford it and it's in stock.
Yeah.
Which, good news, apparently they're hoping they're gonna sell over 8 million units at the end of their fiscal year.
I wonder what the trade-in value for a PS4 would be.
Original PS4?
No.
Probably not much.
Not an original, but...
You have a Slim?
Yeah.
Oh, okay. Probably like 100, 150, I'd assume. If you trade towards the PS4, or towards the PS5, they might have a deal. A lot of times, GameStop will give you like $75 extra or something if you trade towards a new system.
If I went for... So, I mean... If I did all that, then it kind of, I could say, especially if I decided to go for like the digital version of the PS5, like that definitely.
You could probably get it for like 300 or so after trading, like 250 after trading.
Yeah.
If you have some games you don't play anymore, you could trade some of those in.
True.
But PS4 games don't.
If I'm trading in my PS4,
so...
just trading all the PS4 games, right?
Well, the PS5 is backwards compatible, so it's not like you couldn't play those.
Yeah, my thing is that most of my games are downloaded digitally. I guess that's part of the problem of being only digital. Like, can I still download them if I just log into my PlayStation Network on my PS5?
I have no idea.
That's something
I
want to look
assume there's
into.
some way.
I
know on your Xbox you can. I know on the Xbox you can because it's all integrated. Like even all the way back from the Xbox 360, they're adding cloud saves now to the 360 so that people can take their Xbox 360 cloud saves.
If you bought a game on your 360 digitally, can you re-download that same game on your Xbox Series X?
I think so. If it's supported via back compat, I think you can.
Yeah.
I'm not sure if digital works that way or if it's only physical.
I'm sorry, guys.
I don't have an Xbox.
I cover Nintendo, not Sony and Microsoft, so I don't know these details. I'll have to look into it.
Yeah.
But let me just kind of finish up the chat here because we gotta call it a night, man. Let's see. Taker 610. 10,000 years ago, Ganon lost to the heroes, guardians, and beasts. The road character found Ganon's body and found a way to use the malice to corrupt. This way, Ganon could come back and win. Maybe the resurrection of Ganondorf is just a follow-up after the failure of the Calamity War, potentially. Birdman, do you think we'll get another tease for Age of Calamity this week? Ooh. It seems like we're getting one every week, right? So, I don't want to say no. I feel like probably we're going to get something about Age of Calamity leading up to every week. Now, it may not be a full-blown trailer, but I think we're going to continually
we'll
see...
at least get those little mini trailers they've been releasing that are like less than a minute long, but they show off new stuff.
Maybe
they've been putting out some of those.
Yeah, they've been bite-sized. I think the plan is to kind of talk about it every week, so I think there's a good chance that could continue to happen. Yeah, I'm not 100% on that. Like, it might just be like character social media updates, but I think there's a decent chance that it's little mini trailers every at least once per week. And it's only for 3 more weeks, so yeah. Let me see here. Taker 610 did the mini guardian time traveling, and therefore bringing malice with it allows for its own corruption in the past. In other words, they are the same guardian. They are. I believe they are the same guardian. I feel like if it's not a timeline split, what it is, it's a self-fulfilling prophecy sort of situation where it's doing its best to change the past, but it's really not. Unless it's like Brandon's idea where it does change the past, but we're not sure how much changes the past. We'll see. Final question here. Control Dan Adam, it's not a question, but I appreciate the sentiment. It's currently past 4 a.m. here in the UK. I am committed fan and trying to make as many podcasts as I can. I appreciate that. Thank you for watching, guys. Yeah, everyone's watching on different time zones. That's cool. That is cool. But yeah,
I know.
guys.
Cycling, he was in here earlier. He is 6 hours ahead of us.
Yeah.
So when we started the podcast, it was 4 a.m. for him.
Late. That is late. For me, it is currently 11:25 p.m. and I do have to get up in the morning.
10:25 for me.
Lucky. But anyways, everyone, thank you so much for coming by. If you have any questions, feel free to leave it in the comments below. For those who are curious, because I did say Rob would be coming on tonight, he's coming on next week, probably, hopefully. Make sure to check him out as well. Rule of 2 review. Great guy, cool YouTuber, so check him out. Obviously, check out Brandon as well. What About Nintendo? I know you've been working on some sort of restart yourself.
Yeah,
not there yet.
I have plans, but those plans require money, and I don't have that. So as soon as I have money, those plans will come. So I have some cool stuff. I had Halloween themed. I had a whole plan to kickstart off the channel with a Halloween themed month. Didn't happen. Next Halloween was when we'll have to do that. Still have a bunch of ideas that they were cool, so I'll definitely use them next year. But yeah, channel stuff is coming.
Stay tuned.
Eventually.
Stay tuned. Next time on Dragon Ball Z. But yeah, have a good one, guys. We'll see you soon. There will be video uploads throughout the week. Don't worry. All right, take care.
Bye, guys.
Bye. Cool.